Take it all. Yeah. All right.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm going to call this meeting to order and we're going to begin with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Quick note on sound and audio in the room, we're using the owl for the microphone, so speak loudly, it'll pick it up. Just make sure that you have speed in that channel. The people on watching it will also.
Okay,
Thanks, Gary.
thank you. Greg, this question for you. Do we want to go around and do introductions?
I don't think so. We're limited on time. We like.
Review of the agenda, any questions or concerns? No, okay. So now is the time for comment on public matters that are not on the agenda. Public matters do not include any pending legal matters, private personnel interests, or private student issues. Please do not attempt to address such issues at this time, or you will be ruled out of order. The board cannot enter into a discussion during general public comment. Is there any general public comment? I know we have some public online.
We do have public online, but there are hands raised, so no public comment.
Okay, and I see none here in this room. Okay, great. So we will move on to item number 4 on our agenda, which is new business. So at that point, I'll have Brett.
I'll kick it off again in an effort monthly to bring this full circle, especially for the trustees' purpose, is the ability to have that, as you said, a question and answer that we don't normally get in a full board meeting. So this was an effort to provide more information in a two-way communication stream for trustees. And we do this weekly on Thursdays. And so this is just an extension to invitation for the trustees. So that's why we're here. Gretchen and I were talking earlier, we really could use an hour and a half, but we recognize that people are working. And if we did an hour and a half, that would put us out all day because of the 3 projects going on. So with that abbreviated, and side note, last night was really well attended. We did the gathering at Brothers. We had nearly, I think some of them calculated 75 people. It was really well. The format was that we did put a mic in everyone's hands. We set up stations, and the attendees got to go to each station and ask questions. So it really turned out to be a nice night. Other than that, it's all yours. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Here you can start the presentation. I'm gonna follow along here. So again, I know some of this content you've seen before. I'm gonna try to kind of give, again, an overview of where we've been and then get to where we're at, and hoping that we end up with some time to engage and have back and forth, because that's really the intent of the work session, you know. So guiding principles, I know when we first presented some guiding principles, they were basically from the previous bond, and not a lot had changed and confirmed that with the district, but they were kind of general and district-wide principles. Since that time, we have refined these slightly to be Kessler specific. And I would say they have not changed radically, but I think some of the emphasis may have changed. And this is based on what we have heard from teachers and what we heard reiterated in community meetings. But again, just to highlight some of those kind of key points, this belonging and inclusion has come through very strongly from parents, students, and staff. This expectation that there is hands-on learning and excitement about learning, and that's what we heard back from kids is, you know, we asked them very specifically what gets you excited about learning, and a lot of that feedback was about hands-on, you know, active learning environments. Thinking about, you know, whole child wellness. There's a lot of discussion about, you know, creating calm spaces and making sure that things are tidy and there's expectations that are regular, and so you know, kids can expect what's going to happen. Partnership and community is huge at Kessler. I would say an outstanding job of only outreach through monthly programming, but also bringing community partners into the building, specifically Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, but there's other partners that come into the building and regularly interact with students, so that's really key. And then this connection to nature and real world experiences, again, we'll talk a lot about how the site is part of that, a key part of that, but they are realizing that in the way that they can right now on their site. I think that's something we want to push moving forward. So an agenda for today will really quickly go through schedule, what the processes look like, and then we'll get to building basket studies. So schedule, again, we are starting to bring together the GCCM schedule and ours. That's still in process. So there will be more forthcoming on that. But I would say the biggest change to this is kind of looking at what might happen this summer. We do have some site utility work identified. There's a storm drain that needs to be rerouted for sure. We'll get to this, but through some of our building massing studies, we think we have determined we aren't going to have to move the modular, which is fantastic. Outcome to that. That's my hope, to not spend money that's kind of going to be lost for nothing. And then lastly, a proposal that has come from the GCCM, which we are assessing, is it possible to build the gym shell this summer? We don't know the answer to that yet, but it's on the table for consideration. Then you can move forward. This is just, again, what this planning process looks like and the phase that we're in right now. We have delivered the ed specs, and we are moving into schematic design right now. That's the massive studies you'll see. So student engagement process, again, you've probably heard about the mural that we worked on with Paul and partnered with Holter on this. We've sent out some public updates to that. Paul put together a video and an artist statement, and he's hoping to do kind of a public unveiling at some point. So he's working with the district directly about how to get it installed and protected. And now at the customer gym. But I would say and then we've been dropping off these engagement boards for students on a weekly basis. Those are completed now, but they would have a question and then we get tons of sticky note answers. And we would then collect those and kind of process those. So some of those things we're hearing, again, fantastic news that love of library and reading has really come forth. I mean, we always wanted the library to be prominent position in the school, but it just reconfirmed what we were hoping for. I've sensed that those regular events that are happening are really cementing that sense of community and identity, really good to hear, and creating that sense of belonging and inclusion. It was interesting to hear that from students, them wanting to make sure that everybody was included. And I think that that's part of what they're seeing as a hindrance in their current building is just physical accessibility challenges. And then it's clear that teachers are making every child feel seen and cared for. And again, that hands-on activities are really creating that sense of excitement. So moving forward, process update with teachers. We've done, this kind of culture mapping to try to understand what the culture is. We've already talked about some of that. We also engaged them with this model and with programming meetings to get kind of the understanding of what all the needs of every space are. And we'll get to the model here shortly. But again, we are hearing that this staff works very collaboratively and supports one another. And they really appreciate that about themselves. They want to make sure that is maintained when they move into a larger building. They do want to take advantage of the unique site that they have and the connection to outdoor learning experiences that it offers. These community partnerships, again, are important. And again, what I mentioned, a sense of wanting to create a real calm and organized environment for learning.
I would also say, what the teachers are coming up with in our team is in line with where education's going. We're not seeing something like way out of line. We're seeing like a lot of alignment between what these teachers are asking for and what we're seeing in that culture. So I want to make that clear, like, we're here to make sure we direct that, but what our teachers are saying are right in line with education.
Gary, if you could back up just one slide. We've done a community meeting. Again, it was a lot of the same kind of culture mapping exercises that we had the community engage with. And I would say it just confirmed what we were hearing from teachers, which is a real confirmation that this is a tight-knit school, a neighborhood feel, and they want to maintain that. And you can move forward. So this is where we, started, you know, this is a very unique site. It has unique challenges, it also has unique opportunities, and we decided that the best way to explain that to people was to build a physical model, and this has been, we're getting great traction. I'm tired of moving it around and losing
I see it starting to flake off a little bit. It's still hard to-
The working model, it should be, you know.
You can expect some casualties. We're having some casualties, but it's been great for engagement. We are finding that once you explain some of those unique characteristics of the site and you start talking about how we think spaces map out on that site, people get it. And as an example, we brought it to the district meeting like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and then brought it to the teacher steering committee later in the day, and we didn't give them any direction other than explaining that there are kind of these 2 benches that are about a floor level apart, and these are the program of spaces, and like have that like solve the puzzle. And these are the 2 photos. So on the
2
left,
different teams.
2 different meetings, and the teacher meeting on the right. So you'll see there's just a ton of commonality. So that gives me positive vibes that, you know, we can wrestle about the tiny minute details now, but we don't have to wrestle about kind of building massive. But we are going to walk you through kind of the whys and what fors of that. So you can move forward. We also took this model to the parent teacher conference for 2 evenings. It was great. It was, you know, I think the parent involvement, there were parents that wanted to figure out this puzzle for sure, but mostly it was kids, but it was parents looking over and asking the questions and just fundamentally, again, sharing, you know, I mean, just the basics, the general schedule, like when will kids, are they going to be displaced out of their school? No, we're going to keep them in the main school until it's ready. Like just the fundamentals of the project expectations, and then explaining kind of the site constraints was great.
And I want to say that Golden Eagle was there,
Yeah,
right, at both meetings, so our team is very aligned, so I just want to say shout out to
Yeah.
Troy for being there.
Yes. And you'll see some very unique solutions to how to. Spaces that you.
I will say, I went home after that and there were so many different ideas and, yeah, and I went home and my mind was like racing, like, holy cow, because I didn't. It had me going, I was sitting on the couch after I got home.
I had one parent say, if her son was very engaged with this mom, she said, I know you could spend hours with this. What are you doing with your model when you're done with it? So moving forward, to walk you through kind of how we start to think about site planning. You have your existing school and site on the left, and then this is looking at, it's kind of fuzzy, but this is where you have access to solar. Obviously, that on a north-facing sloping site, that solar access is really precious from the south, and so we're very aware of that. You also have fantastic views south to Mount Helena, north across the highway down to Spring Meadow Lake and across the whole North Valley. But you also have to recognize that we have, you know, harsh winds in the winter that are coming from the west and northwest. And again, thinking about how you mitigate the effects of that and where you put main entries and play spaces and things like that. So you can move forward. And then you want to talk about this, just this
Yeah.
diagram?
So when we look at these diagrams, we have kind of 3 big ideas. We have the heart of the school. It's the library, commons, multi-purpose music. And you'll see in the diagrams what that means. And the gym is part of it, but the gym is so big, that's why it's some color. You'll see that coming up. And then administration, where does that go? You know, near the front entry, how does it access these sites? And then our learning neighborhoods, which is our classrooms. So those are the 3 big parts we're looking at right now, and those are the 3 big blocks here. They'll change a little bit, they'll, you know, gotta solve a lot of problems in between, but those are the 3 big ideas that we're looking for today, you know, to have you guys see what's going on. So if we go to the next slide.
Yeah,
So what we talked about before was the big gap in the elevation. This site actually is really great. We have 14 feet in between. That is the typical floor to floor for a school, if we're doing more than one level. So we have level 0. Go to the next one. And then the gym. So this is where we're gonna get some engagement going on. Talking with the team, the gym right here, because of all this grade we have to deal with. Doesn't need windows out of it. It has a decency to the parking. This is where we believe the gym is gonna go. And after a lot of iterations with Rex, it seems very obvious that's where the gym is going to go. So that is probably one of our big moves now. So I would actually bring it back to your team to see if you believe that is the case. You guys want to engage? You want to jump up? Look at the model? So this is what we're doing today. If you don't want to, you don't have to.
You,
Yeah, gym block here.
What are the negatives with it being in that spot?
There aren't any negatives, actually.
yeah. You know,
And that's why it's the first.
so
But
it's
like-
interesting. 'cause
Guys, get up. Come on. Come on. Get around the model.
This model, there's a little bit different topography from Silverette to Granite. Even though these benches really kind of are running perpendicular to those two streets, you can see that when we cut this bench and wherever we cut this
Yep.
demising, it is more buried on Silverette than it is on Granite. So like if we put a gym on Granite, it actually looks like a two-story space.
Yep.
And at the same elevation, putting it at Silverette, it really is only one level space. And so whatever space we would put along Silverette is gonna be buried at the first level.
Yep.
So you just start thinking about the spaces that are suitable to that. Put classrooms along here, they don't have any windows, right? You could put a hall along here, but it's not very effective because it's a single loaded corridor.
And then that adjacency to the main parking lot.
Yep.
Existing building here.
Yep.
okay, and that's where the parking.
Yep.
Yep, this
Yep.
existing parking lot, existing building, this is the modular. So,
Yep. So
yeah, I think there's a lot of consensus about this. Again, it brings the scale of that space down in relationship to the neighbors. And really only is perceived as a one level when it's really two. It's also a space that doesn't necessarily need views from the floor level. You can get high windows, bring in daylight.
Good light.
Yep.
So let's go to the heart. So the heart is this piece here. So we have the cafeteria commons. We believe that should be on level 0. So we can get access and not break your playground stuff. So they can go into the commons, get access to the north playground.
And the idea behind why we're calling it the heart of the school, it is all those spaces
Yep.
that every learner engages with. They're the communal spaces. So when we think about these amazing views north and south, we think about creating this kind of transparency through the middle so all of those communal spaces are either, having a fantastic view north or a fantastic view south.
And then,
And where's the main entry?
right here.
That's
we will-
there,
we will-
okay.
So let's put that here then.
Okay,
Yep, off Silverette, I think the grade works the best here. We believe that, granite's too steep. This feels like that one spot right here.
How long of a distance is it to the parking? Parents and anyone that's maybe got accessibility.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're still looking at what all the site solutions are, but there's certainly enough width here if we tuck things in to get a little parking along Silverette. There's also an opportunity to expand this parking once this building comes down, to bring some parking in closer to it.
Yep.
And I think we're gonna want some service access roads in here in this lower bench anyway, so,
For buses.
Yep.
well, no, like kitchen delivery.
Oh, not here.
And things like that, yep.
So we're thinking bus could be here still. The site plan is still in motion, but the big site moves. So this will be ADA parking, FLS parking, somewhere here because it's grade. Each one of these is roughly 2 feet, so that's a bit, so these are roughly 2 feet, so this is, makes a lot of sense for an access point here. And so that part of the school is, so we know the gym pretty much has to be here. We believe the heart of the school is in some ways, either it's down there. And then kitchen, yeah. So the heart of the school is the library, you know, kind of like the Da Vinci room at, Central.
Mhm.
The commons, cafeteria is all in the heart. So all the access points are equally to that heart of the school.
That's the cafeteria. Okay.
Yeah, and so again, main entry placed on this upper bench off of Silverette allows for south facing entry or southeast, has that, again, solar access. We did look at a scheme, you know, where you put the main entry on the lower level, but it ends up with a north entry. It's
And it
inevitably gonna
chops.
be shady down here.
It also chops the playgrounds.
Yep.
So like, that's another reason also, right, makes a lot of sense. If you put a road through here, if all this playground is at the cross the road.
Yeah.
The views out of the cafeteria and library would be north facing, the views of the community park.
And we don't know
I
that,
think we're still playing around with
Yep.
the right orientation. I think
Yep.
in general, people are loving the library on this upper level looking north. I think there's an option to either do this, or again, you know, we had to just pick a proportion of space
Yeah.
here. We can make these differently proportioned so that it could
Yeah.
be something
Oh,
that's more like this,
Yeah.
where they're both sharing the
Yeah.
north view and you just have, south facing,
And then you
the
get,
main hall
Yep.
is south facing with lots of glass.
Yep.
So.
And that, yeah, I think the heart is, right now, like, we're gonna wiggle through this and
Mhm.
find the right solution. We know the entry's here. Unless you guys say otherwise. Entry's here.
Shane commenting on flats and all.
Don't let-
I don't know what Shane and Rex are talking about over there.
So Gary, if you could go to the next slide. So this is where we talk about that main entry. And again, admin goes with main entry. And the thought is we are going to have a main access hall here
Yeah.
somewhere regardless.
We call it one of our learning streets, so it's,
Okay, these can slide wherever
Yep.
it needs to go. But, you know, this is the main learning street. So then if you go to the next slide, start to think about stacking classroom blocks on those.
you guys need to
levels.
start moving stuff around.
There's one
Well,
option.
I like what that kid in the picture.
This is the point. This is why we had you here, like, we're at this point.
Yeah.
okay, so we have to.
Yeah, so this is what we're kind of sharing now, but you guys, like, this is your chance to question some of this.
One where it was, no, it
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
it was flared this
Like
way.
this.
Yep.
Yep.
That was kind of cool. I
Yep.
like that.
So one of the big moves is when you think about FLS and Kinder Sprouts.
Yeah.
So this kind of truncated is that we, meaning Gretchen and I and our team thought maybe this made the most sense. Because it's right off the admin. They're right here. So if you think this is Kinder Sprouts and FLS, the teachers and everyone else thought, we want to bring them back into the school. Like why, like that little, that little bit of extra walk, that is not a big deal that they didn't think for FLS and for Kinder Sprouts. They just have to walk down a hallway, and so they would be here and stack above. To integrate them better into the school. So we didn't have this extra wing just for them. I mean, yes, it's a little bit longer walk, but that's good for those kids. It's
Yeah.
that they,
The other advantage, and which is probably what you're going to say, is you preserve a lot more of this.
a lot more playground.
And it creates a wind block.
Yeah,
Yep.
From the
exactly.
right side.
Yep, and a lot more playground. Yep.
And they can have direct access to this playground
Yep.
from FLS and from Sprouts in that lower wing.
Yep, and what's kind of cool is we believe we can make one of the only probably ADA close playgrounds in the city here.
Nice.
Because it's already fairly level. So we wouldn't have to do a lot of gymnastics to make this FLS ADA accessible. And then young kids playground and then older kids playground. So
Does this lend itself also to, I'm just thinking about outdoor classroom space?
Yep.
Seems like it's
Mhm.
right there,
Yep.
also
Mhm.
protected from wind.
Yep.
Southern facing
Yep.
exposure.
Yep.
Really
Yep, brightens that up. Yep.
Absolutely.
Opportunity.
Coming right as with the community, one of the community rooms too.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
so you have a little, what is it? The little seating spaces.
Amphitheater.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, you're gonna have a pretty natural.
Yeah.
We've cut this, but in reality, this would.
Yeah, that
just
one.
be, you know,
Yeah.
as.
Yeah, this is basically 14, 14, 14 feet.
Right, which is the interesting thing about when you start to stack two levels here, regardless of how this is oriented, it never has the perception of being two levels, except, you know, at this very end, which is highway facing.
Yeah.
You know, once you get to Ninth Street, and it's only one level.
Yep.
So it can have this kind of cascading look along Granite. I think it also, by kind of hugging Granite, creates more of a kind of an urban streetscape for Granite, which I think is interesting. You know, the condos across the street kind of already have that
Yes.
look.
Yeah.
So I think it actually will dress up that street quite a bit.
Yeah.
Then what are the cost differentials between, I think like some of them are straight on, but some of them they're at an angle. Where the angle you get more exposure to views.
That's what we're
I think
studying.
that's what we're studying right now. Yep. And, you know, do you, the angles themselves don't cost money. It's only if you have spaces in the knuckle that aren't efficient, you know, right? Where those angles come together. And so I think that's it.
So yeah, if you keep it like this, or you do this, what we'll study is, are these views really any better or not? Are they worth the money for that extra space? Like, so that's what we're studying is.
This study,
Mhm.
which is simply, they
Yeah.
all run parallel with the street,
Yep.
but does this offset do anything for you in terms of? Okay.
Yep.
Does the knuckle, if you do it that way, you're gonna have a cool, I don't know.
It does,
See
yep.
Here, whether it's this guy down here.
Cool's the
Oh,
right
yeah.
word. It does.
Right.
And that's where the blocks are important. Like,
Yep.
that's what we're studying is like, what's the,
Yeah, what-
the budget?
Yeah, ratio.
Like, how do we keep all that in alignment? So.
And I think the other piece that we've heard, and it's not reflected in what you see here, but these blocks of 6 classrooms also include some support service spaces. And it's interesting because when we first started some of these programming meetings, we were hearing, let's create a suite of those services, you know, we're talking about OTPT,
Yeah, so
Guys,
this
speech. They were
6-4.
thinking that those would be kind of all in one area that was very designated, and it was through the precedent trip and seeing some of those, they completely flip-flopped and it said, we want to make sure that we want to destigmatize that.
Exactly, that's right.
It can still be in the same neighborhood, but make it somewhere that everybody walks by every day.
Yeah.
So that's what's happening already in this knuckle zone on level 1. So we're calling this level 0, level 1, just here, and then level 2. But that level 1, again, Learning Street, that's where all those services should be accessible, right? Main corridor. And so, yeah, this is the kind of general diagram that is in our ed specs about what is in a learning neighborhood. So we've got we've basically got 24 classrooms. It's 23 classrooms, but FLS is a double classroom space, so we're just calling it 24 for simplicity. We have created the 6-pack scheme, so there's a pack of 6 classrooms in each one of those boxes.
Okay.
What we are hearing from teachers is the diagram of their spaces right now in Kessler they love. So they have these paired classrooms that are joined by a storage room and that both teachers can access, so we have shared learning materials in there. Right now at Kessler, this is the bathroom, which doesn't look great, so it's not settled. But they have a high need for having an enclosed small workspace to work with kids. And so that's happening, it's all really moment, and the study is happening. So we looked at a lot of models on that. It does work. Because, there's two things.
Yeah, kids have to.
Sometimes it's testing, sometimes it's. So it's and they also wanted to be able to explain things to space out, future walls that have eyes on it. So thinking about that smaller space having windows for both classrooms. So.
Something's got that windows.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they have here classroom. And then, you know, for efficiency.
Get back to cost, I think a big thing is.
What is double loaded?
So that means you got that function on both sides. So I was thinking we would have got a little really. Functions on one side. But
There really is a learning.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So when there are other seven spaces where, they're going to need to get a little bit larger, because it's in a small room. We're still working on the diagrams, the diagram, but, when you think about the corridor and the proximity to main house being on one side, the other side is the proximity to outside learning controls.
This can go here, or here, it's just a diagram, so it can move around. It's just the idea.
And the other interesting thing about this configuration of those learning blocks is that each of them either has a prominent in the north or a prominent goes south off the end, which can be a shared space. I like that rather than trying to decide which classroom gets.
Yeah.
The big view is it's, you think about it as a learning neighborhood and the collective space gets sort of as a.
Yeah.
Yeah. Winter bathroom.
So it is.
In that support services, so.
So,
In that stuff.
yeah, so right, if you look at the model, it's back to the, what we call.
It'd be right here. So every teacher, every kid. We have looked at an option, maybe moving this out, but that's where we're at. Like we have the spots, we're looking at it, but in general, it's equal access.
The square footage here. Yeah, that's what that accessory function. like
Yes.
the classroom. And what, you know, we have noted is that the length of this, and again, it's just a box, but it's not any different than what they currently
Yep.
have in their north wing.
Okay.
So in terms of when we're trying to talk.
Walkability.
It feels so big to them. Yeah, you know, how far to have our, it's really the same volume. It's just like a stair. And we'll have.
Okay, that's what I was, that's gonna,
Yep.
that was a big issue.
Yep,
Yep.
oh, we have to do that.
And then it says office over there.
Yeah, it's
What
more
is that?
those support services.
Okay, support service. Yeah, gotcha.
Yep.
Therapy.
Yep.
It
It could be a para office.
And that
or
would be on
free
all.
chair.
And all four,
Mhm.
right?
You were gonna kind of spread it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the spread outs between the red block and here, so we may spread them out here, but like, we're not putting all of those services in the red at the entry. We're gonna spread them out, meaning in these.
Yeah, they're tending to fit really well on level one,
Yep.
kind of in this zone. But when you think about how all students are accessing those common spaces, they are coming right through that knuckle all the time. Even if you're on the second floor, you're gonna be coming down the stairs and through that knuckle.
Okay.
So it's again, like making it part of that one street,
Yeah.
accessible to everybody.
We have questions from Jenny, who's online.
Oh,
So
Jenny.
Jenny, do you hear us? Can you-
Hi. Sorry if you hear baby giggles in the back. I was curious what this little learning neighborhood, how it would look different with the double classroom for FLS. Like if in the future, if it needed to be broken back up into two classrooms, could it, or how would that look different?
That's a great question. FLS, we're using this general square footage, but FLS is so,
It's got the
Specialized
specific needs,
that-
like
yeah.
the accessible restroom with a changing table and things like that. It is, we are keeping with the direction that every classroom should be identical. And I would say the exceptions to that are FLS, Kinder Sprouts, and the resource room. And the only reason the resource room is a little different is it again has some adjacent spaces that are specific to them. Like a sensory space, and a, quiet room. So FLS would be a challenge to, it would have to be remodeled, I think, to go back to a standard classroom.
Yeah, based on, the storage and restroom requirements are pretty, they're on their own.
And they will have a kitchenette in there too.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Are there any other questions from people online since we're pausing? Okay. Continue.
So we did, when we were thinking about where specific spaces ought to go, we made these little cutouts so that you can lay them on the block. But right now, the current concept is FLS and Kinder Sprouts go in this lower level like we we're talking about. So
They have access.
outside, resource rooms, may go in this block too. And then, all of those support services, OTPT, also SMT, so those kind of things again are in this stuff. So this, and actually.
So they're in both wings to make.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are.
Maybe what's called.
Maybe if I'm ready to begin, like you said.
And we have 2 Kinder Sprouts.
Yes.
Here.
Yes. And that's where,
Yeah, and I think the idea again is to kind of sprinkle some of these services into both of these neighborhoods. So again, it's not
Yeah.
all in one wing.
Yeah.
First, second, so it's worth it.
Cool.
question?
Cool.
No, that would be
Good.
Makes complete sense to have easy access to their playground.
Yeah,
Yeah. To protect this.
yeah, and Kinder Sprouts, has to have their own protected playground.
Yeah.
I believe that's an insurance requirement, so.
Mhm.
Right,
that
right.
basically, and obviously FLS has pretty specific needs for their
Yep.
playground.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right.
Solve it.
Shall we take our seats now?
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you say it's not?
Get assignment.
Tear off. Yeah. It's
We did get to conversation time.
Yeah.
Not get in the middle.
So there's things that have developed over the last 3 weeks that we are excited about. Building the shell as a gym makes a lot of sense to move us a little along, or move us down the path a little sooner. I think there's a lot of advantages to that. The other piece that I like is that we're not having to move that modular. So if you look for that gym sitting in the modular, it's going to be close, right? It's gonna be real tight. But I think we can keep that there and save us a spot for drain utilities and water and septic back into that modular for temporary use. So that makes a lot of sense. And then just the commonality that everybody's coming up with about the same footprint. So we're moving out of this schematic probably into a DD here real quick.
Oh, we got some more things to figure out.
Oh, I feel like that. Yeah. No, we're making progress. I keep saying that, they come out of the gate slower, but they're on the inside corner, they're moving quick. They're catching up. And so I'm excited about this project. This is a really nice project that's gonna come out for Kessler.
So then if you build the shell of the gym over the summer, that assumes that you continue and build the inside of it.
Yeah.
So going forward, so that this summer you can once again
I
make.
think Gold Eagles have used it
Yeah,
for
what's
lay
that?
down.
Just more about that. I'm sure.
There's a couple advantages for sure. I mean, obviously we have a big, once we get it fully enclosed and waterproof, the roof, we have a good storage, material storage for the project and that safe, secure, out of the way, out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. And then also with that, you know, putting a wood floor on a concrete surface, that concrete usually needs to cure out really well, so, you know, having that there, you know, approximately a year or what in advance really helps and make sure that the wood floor finish is getting the quality it deserves, for sure.
Yeah, and I also think that, the foundation of the rest of the building hopefully is not lagging too far behind the gym and the shell. So it wouldn't, there wouldn't be a point where there's no progress happening, but it would kind of go from gym shell to, you know, focus back on the rest of the building, moving forward with that foundation piece.
Yeah, Golding, don't tell me if I'm wrong, we believe it's a cost savings, but also we don't have a lot of laydown space on that site. So the gym is pretty important to giving these guys space to get that done.
Yeah, so just to clarify, like, when we talk about the shell, we mean there's gonna be a concrete slab, there's gonna be support walls, there's gonna be roof structure and roofing on it. And that, they'll probably stop at that. And we're not gonna finish out the inside just yet. We're not gonna finish the outside, regardless, you know, however the outside looks. It is simply the shell. And part of the reason to think about that is it is pretty close to this modular. We think we can build it, but we don't want kids in the modular when those walls are going up. So that's again, thinking why doing that over the summer.
So what is in the modular right now?
It's Kinder Sprouts and music. So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty critical programs we don't want to displace. I mean, frankly, when we first started this project, I think everybody's assumption was we're gonna have to move the modular somewhere else on site temporarily. I thought that too, until I went and looked at it. And this is not just a modular, this is a building on a permanent foundation with plumbing and sewer to it. There's a bathroom in there. So we got all these services we got to think about, and it's a big modular. It's 2 big classrooms. So thinking about where to place that on a sloping site to get the services to it. And we're going to spend all this money for, you know, a 2 school year, and then we're going to get rid of it. It just seemed like, boy, if there's a way to not do that, let's try to find it. So I'm happy that it looks like that's feasible.
But we're just, number one,
Yeah, we got a couple more minutes. If we finish early, my watch told me I need to stand and take a walk, so I think it's the key to
Okay.
wrap it up. If you guys, any other questions?
Any other question? I just want to thank you. I mean, the reason I didn't want to get up there is because I saw the like input you got from the teachers, from Rex and the community. So I felt like I wasn't gonna be able to add much. And I'm like, yeah, you got so much input and feedback. And yeah, just different stakeholder perspectives.
Been tremendous amounts
Yeah,
of Mosaic's willingness to accept input. And I did see, the artist, Paul, I saw his Facebook, reel lesson. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really excited about the progress. I think it's a nice testament to your guys' progress that is about.
I just love the, she was, yeah, also questions.
We do have, trustee Amanda, who has a question, trustee Shabana, and also has a question.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
mine was more of a comment. I just want to say I'm really excited about the idea of an ADA accessible playground. I know when I've talked to Kessler kids, they're very frustrated by how icy their playground gets, or when some of their friends can't come down the hill to play with them. So I think that that's going to be a huge value added for that school.
Yeah, thank you for that comment.
And there was another question, comments? Siobhan?
Yes, thank you. Hey, first of all, I was a little late to the party, and this is a question that kind of piggybacking on Trustee Butcher's question, but also that I want to ask every design team is that we are, one thing that can happen, and there's some people feel like it did happen on the last build, that we made things maybe too specific for the current situation and not quite as flexible as maybe they should have been after a little while. So mine is more of a general question. Are you're using not only the resources that are local and what the needs are there, but that extra knowledge that you have by having your outside firms, that we're on the right track to building a building that, is going to be really good space for, say 40 years.
Yeah. So I think to address one of those questions is, we are looking at every classroom being the same. And the exception to that is FLS, Kinder Sprouts, and the resource room. So of 24 classrooms, the vast majority of those will be identical and very flexible in terms of who gets assigned to that space. I think that the precedent trip was great for our teachers to see what's happening out there. And they saw things both that they liked and that they didn't like. And we worked very closely with Cushing Terrell on developing the program of spaces that's in the ed spec. In fact, they compiled the whole ed spec for us. So we think that we are also meeting industry standards in terms of that. I know that we probably need to trim some of the square footage that's in that program right now to get to a budget that meets, but it's not a huge trimming. It's trimming around the edges, I would say.
Yeah, I would also just say that, yeah, this is, 50 to 100-year school. We're trying to make the classroom the same. Every school that was done before has already been reprogrammed, first grade, second grade, fifth grade is all moved around. So our plan is to make it as flexible as possible. So yes, we're not designing ultra specifically to today. We are really looking at the future and how we make that be as flexible as possible. It's a hard challenge, but that's our goal.
I would say, just in reflection of what we saw in other schools kind of in the region and what we see happening in this district, I think that this district is doing an exceptional job of meeting every learner where they're at. And that means specific pull-out services and small groups, much more than what we saw at many of the other schools. So if there is something that feels tailored to Helena School District, it is that.
I think last part on this is that, and this is very common in all buildings, we'll see transition through every one of our projects. The building right now is about 71,000 square feet, 72,000 square feet. Really like to see this thing sit into the right at 70,000 square feet. So there's some square footage that we need to start looking at moving in, but that fits our budget well within that 69 to 70,000 square foot. So it happens, it's gonna happen with capital, it's gonna happen with Helena. You just know that square foot has to meet budget, and the budget's going to dictate how much we can build. So we always over design and come back into where we can live.
And I would also say an important thing on that is the more square footage, the more deferred maintenance, the more energy costs. So I think all the teams are focused on getting the right square footage. Let's not say the smallest or the highest, but I think it's a big point. It's not just the upfront building cost, it's the long-term maintenance and deferred maintenance piece.
In reference, the three new elementary schools running from 67,000 square foot to nearly 70, probably 69 and a half. So we're right in that same area as what we've built before.
I think we have another online.
We do have a
comment.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
From Principal Riley Thatcher.
Yeah.
She said, thank you for mentioning that. Customer staff has been so invested and we feel that we made our ideas come to life while continuing to design for flexibility in the future. We are looking forward to continued collaboration with Mosaic and our Golden Eagle swing team.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Riley, for writing that too. Okay, any other comments, questions?
Orange rec, good? Yep. Okay.
Okay, so we should have a quick recess.
10-minute recess and back at the other team's out.
Mosaic and construction.
Yeah.
Thank you. There it is. Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, inspired.
conversation. Wait, you're jacking it up.
Well, Janelle was in the hallway.
I know, it was such a, I invited her in. She
Did no thank you.
turned me down hard.
Amazing.
No, Sam got.
So, okay, here we go with Slate and RTA and Langland, I believe. Did Rex, do you want to do any more?
Yeah, we'll speed up second on the slate for an hour. Again, as we talked, we could do this for 2 hours, but this is again an opportunity for our trustees to have a work session, unlike a board meeting where it's a little more complicated to have a back and forth. This is much more free or open for the conversation. We do this every Thursday, so once a month, we do this with our trustees so that they have a deeper understanding where you're at and where we're headed. So with that, we'd like to welcome Slate, Jacob Scott Riley, and our Langless team to, I know that you went off out of state, did some deep dive planning, so we're excited to hear kind of where we're at. Process.
Yeah.
So the floor is yours.
We'll jump right into it. There it is. So schedule wise, we're still obviously moving forward, and we're in schematic design, as you can see. And we,
Tell us again, for trustee's sake and my own, the difference between schematic and a DD phase.
so schematic is, still very high level. We have our engineers kind of on board, but they're not drawing anything, right? We're getting narratives from them, we're getting their feedback, we're making sure that our rooms are kind of in the right space. But from a drawing sense, it's mostly architectural that you'll see in a lot of cases. Once we get to the DD phase, that's when kind of everybody starts getting all of their stuff into the plans, being everybody being engineers, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Schematic wise too, our engineers are developing the existing plans, but they're not honing where the new systems are gonna go and how they're gonna fit. That whole,
It does, that makes sense. On a side note, for you, and then we'll SMA 80 and SMA here shortly, we're gonna wanna get together with owner rep, Mr. McCabe, and you, we're gonna want to solidify a commonality spreadsheet that compares square feet classrooms with one side of town and the other. So at some point, we're gonna want, you guys have a spreadsheet, square footage, and then A&E have one. And then when we lay those on top of each other, they have different names and titles. And so we're gonna wanna, for Josh's sake, we want to quantify those numbers into one value. So, is that fair, Josh?
Thank you.
Yeah, at some point, we need to do that.
yeah, and Shayna just talked with some of that, and so if we can do it tomorrow, we will, otherwise we'll do it as soon as we get back from our orders.
And it won't, it's not in this one, this is, I just want you, SMA, Josh and I,
Yeah,
come into the meeting and just
yeah,
finalize that thing. Okay.
and I think that'll simplify pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Awesome. I guess really quickly too, so DDs, we kind of get all the stuff kind of in there, and then that gets vetted. We don't have full specifications, we don't have full details, we don't have all the stuff fully picked and vetted, but we're pricing at the same time, right? That gives us a chance with our contractors, with our owners rep, to make sure the pricing is gonna fit with the budgets. And if we have to make modifications, we haven't, fully committed to one thing or the other. At that point, we then go into construction documents. Those are where, we go from 50 pages to 200 pages or something on this type of project of this size. So,
And you're right there. I forgot the most important topic for the day. Is the explanation of why I'm wearing this shirt. Let's get that. I'm waiting for somebody to ask, and when you had to ask. It is Josh's birthday today. I think he's 7 or 8. 13?
Yeah, 13 and a quarter.
13 and a quarter. Leave your baby.
He was at Brothers last night.
Yes, he was at Brothers last night. Anyway, there's several of us running around. Jesse's got her shirt covered up, and she spiced it up with a blazer. Kent's got hers on. There's a few of us that just want to recognize Mr. McKay's birthday today. So,
these shirts for sale.
they are for sale. Where are you going to get
Where do you get the?
It's gonna be live here soon. Your talk is completely useless conversation. instruction that, the floor is yours again.
Okay, so really quickly, the guiding principles that we developed with our group, just to make sure everybody's still aware of those. And this group being the design advisory group, is the exterior traffic improvements, parking, site circulation, safety. We want to improve the visibility of the main entrance. We want to improve the identity of the school as it transforms into the future. For the interior, we want to create student-centric, flexible learning environment. We want to provide the connected heart of the school to support the community, but also act as that kind of cafeteria, be a very active space. And we want to improve the learning environments really and connect that CTE space back into the building. So those are kind of the 6 pieces, 3 exterior, 3 interior. And so we, obviously, as you guys remember, we had 4 options. I'm not going to show you those options. We selected option B, which was really that valley entry connection. Let's remove that science wing from the building. It creates, really, it did answer all of those 6 points, at least the exterior, really, from the standpoint of the identity and the safety and security and the exterior traffic flows. As you can see, this kind of this bus drop-off piece, as Scott's pointing out, is really separated from where the parent drop-off is at the front. We have the visitors and parent parking during the day, during the school day. Out front, that's very visible to the front entrance and the staff, so they can see who's coming and going, whether they should be there or shouldn't be there. You've got the student parking that's fully separated from those, and then the staff parking or event parking after hours as well. But this really does define and really divide all of that stuff, so we don't get this crazy overflow, which is where, accidents can happen. This shows kind of 2 red entrances, but really the prime red entrance is the main entrance on the south here. And that will be very visible and everybody really has access to that location. Yeah, we're showing some new tennis courts. We have 8 right here. Talking through a few things, we'd rather get these oriented north and south just from, visibility and not looking into the sun. So there's going to be some modifications that we look at this, but we really are going to be moving the current 4 tennis courts. We don't have the room up there to have the practice fields. We're going to move them down over towards the parking location. Potentially, one of the other options that we looked at was putting in right on this north side of the parking site and extending the parking, further over to the property on that side.
With some things that I'm thinking about right now, I would really like to study that. Those courts back up to the north, leaving that parking out to the west.
Yep.
But potentially something could happen out to the west side of that would require parking.
Yep.
Fair?
Fair. Yep. So this is the basement floor plan of the inside of the building. And what you'll see in here is that we're working on what this CTE space can look like. The current plans you see here, which you haven't seen, are kind of a double tiered site plan. The existing CTE is tight to where the building's at. The property line is tight. We need a 30-foot setback so we can get fire lanes. So we're trying to figure out how we can fit all of this stuff together into that site. The other thing that, as Rex had mentioned, the kind of combination of the names and how things go together, this will flex and shift the size a little bit as we finish the programming and schematic design. So, but one of the things we were looking at, this is the sketch that we had developed during our time with RTA this last week, is how do we get this all on one level if we can? There's an 8-foot grade change across the site where the CTE sits, so we're working through how we can make that work. All of these shops want exterior exits and overhead doors, and they want their own exterior workspaces. So we're gonna find a solution to that.
I think there's some work that's for us, Josh and I and our team, on how to make sure that we're providing equitable spaces across town. And so that comment earlier around, we want to make sure that we have square footage near. I'm not asking the CTE building at Capitol to be 17,321 and the exact same thing over at Pelham High. Right? It's going to have to be somewhat close, but we also know that the machines that we have located at Capitol, they're more plentiful, they're more of them. So maybe our space is a little bigger at Capitol than it is at Helen High. That, we're willing to live with that. But we don't want it to be 7,000 square feet difference, right? It's gotta be within our range of living. So that's kind of where I was working on, Josh is working on, making sure that we're equitable across the account, across our town, so. Yeah. And we're working through that, so that's still in dynamic solutions.
Yep. Some of the other stuff happening in the basement is pretty minimal. Scott, can you point out where the mechanical is currently at?
So this basement level?
This is the basement level, yep. So mechanical, the boiler room is currently up in that kind of knuckle up on the top on that T. We are gonna be relocating where all the utilities come in. The utilities currently feed the heart of, feed this building or in the middle of this part of the school that has to get renovated. The plumbing, this sprinkler lines, the fiber optic, the gas even kind of comes into that area up there. So we do have to relocate all of that out of there.
Do you think that space where it currently is, you call it a knuckle or there at the elbow, do you think that's a useful academic area if we were able to relocate that into a darker dungeon?
Yep, and that's what we're planning to do. So in this plan, we're showing mechanical on the right side down in this hole. We are gonna be relocating that over more to the, what we're gonna call the west side of the school or the left side of the school at this point, because it gives us that ability to run all those utilities outside the building and not over where we're gonna be putting this new core, if that makes sense. But what this, I mean, we can bring our intakes. This will also allow us to put those new boilers and the plants in there while the existing plants are running. And we can get those all built, and then we can do a cutover and eventually revamp that space that is current boiler space into other usable academic.
You don't have to answer this question, but initial observation of that strategy or technique would be that all your plants, your intakes, your exhausts are gonna be near your main entrance.
Yeah, they'll be around the side. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sound cosmetic, what you're saying.
Yeah, and some of the, the air handlers may not be in that space. The air intake we're talking about is much smaller than the big duct systems that have to bring in the intake air release.
What I don't want is as you walk into a brand new building, you have that thing going. Right? So you don't want that.
Like that.
And that makes sense.
And the code today, requires acoustical attenuation and the management spaces. It will be dealt with one way or the other. We'll have good quality learning spaces that don't have.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I'm thinking as you're coming into a remodel, completely, really nice entrance into your building, and all you can hear is a bunch of exhaust fans about ready to take your hat off. Like, so I want to make sure that as you walk in, it's aesthetically pleasing, also acoustically pleasing as you walk in. You're not hearing a bunch of fans roll.
Yep.
Can I ask a quick question about the basement? Just in terms of all these classrooms on the west side of the building, like what's the light gonna be like in the classroom? I mean, I see windows, are those high up?
Yeah, the existing ones are there now.
Okay,
Yeah,
I can't remember what those are.
they're on very still light, but yeah, they're all about around here.
Okay, so they're natural
So
light.
that's really one of the main strategies of this, is trying to get as many classrooms out of that, what we call the dungeon.
The dungeon,
As we can. And we're still vetting that a little bit, right? We think we can get more out. Right now, in this plan, there's basically 4 classroom spaces and a photography or pink space that is potentially not having natural light into it. So,
Okay.
and there may be approaches, we can bring in some area wells down on the outside. Potentially, again, the budget's gonna drive all of that. We don't know what we can and can't do with some of that, but we are trying to minimize that from just a high level strategy standpoint to begin with. So,
Thank you.
yeah. I guess down here, the weight room, we're still showing down here, there's like a pink locker room up to the north, which we think we can redo in storage. And then in the center, down at the lower level, is the cafeteria. You see the CTE, spaces down there. Now, this is open to above, right? So it's atmospherically and light and sound open to above, so it's not this whole stark place. It's gonna be great. It'll be a much better location for them to be doing that. This puts them kind of on display, right? We can take that culinary and activate it to what could be lunchtime. We can take some of the business stuff and maybe the bare necessities down there so that they're able to sell some of that stuff from this lower level and activate both the main floor and this lower level all the time.
A question, last night, a parent was asking about, the main floor and then the hole in the middle, and then they're concerned about, is there enough space for everyone to eat lunch?
There will be way more space than they currently have. The second floor, their current cafeteria that they have right now is about this big. And so, and we'll vet this too, just make sure that Josh and Brett and the school, this is gonna be big enough, but the floor area of this and the lower level. And also we have some of these other breakout spaces throughout the building, these breakout rooms that we have, that will also have tables and chairs. So I think that.
Almost triggers.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more space. And I don't know that exact number, but yeah, it's big.
They'll be over half the price. I'm sure, in better lighting.
And better lighting, good. And so what you're seeing is these openings, like you had mentioned, are light filtering down from below. And the size of those are somewhat arbitrary. So if we need more space, we have the ability to kind of flex and push and pull. So this is the main floor. This is again that CPE from the north. You'll see that some of those shops currently in this plan are stacked, and again, we're looking at how we can separate those just to minimize the cost of building. And again, the size that it will be. Again, we have the new part of the school, and the new admin area, down below, and we have the new auxiliary. Another piece that we don't know that is in the budget or not, currently orchestra in the basement, 2 classrooms. And we would like to really bring them up some way. And this strategy is showing in addition to the north that has this kind of orchestra space and maybe some stagecraft area to the north. The other reason we felt this may be a good idea to help us from that cluster entry to also add new imagery to what that north entrance may look like. Now, again, we don't know if we'll have the budget for this. This is about 5,000 square feet from a dollar grant. That's, $4.5 million give or take. So it's not a little thing. It looks little on here, but this is big. It's a large space still. So, but we're hoping we can get it because it really would be helpful. If it can be a new addition, we'll have to find some other space to really bring them up and, we'll put even full other whether it's pieces to make it happen.
So at what point will we know if we can make a decision on that?
Well,
By the time we get the budget settled, is it gonna be too late to move forward with?
so some of the stuff that we can do with some of these things is we can do what we call additive alternate type stuff. So at some point in schematic design, we're gonna know right away that we're close. Or, maybe we're within that striking distance, we may end up kind of designing some of this stuff that through EDs that, we can pencil it in or not pencil it in, but, and Shane may be able to answer this better, he may say, no, we don't know the way we're getting back to these.
I thought, try to let them get their. But we're biting the budget very, but this, and I think to say that right. We want to make sure that they're designing it to exactly what you need, and there's going to be some trade-offs when we get to the budget piece. A $4.5 million swing rate probably isn't. It doesn't feel like it's within striking distance yet. Because we still have to plan on how much CPE we have to build. Once we understand how much CPE we have to build, which is all end use base. A $4.5 million swing right now, a big swing.
And the other thing to maybe add to that is if you add $4.5 million in new stuff that's outside the budget, that's $4.5 million somewhere else, right? So that means renovating store, is it, renovating stuff, $200 a square foot or $150 a square foot versus $450 a square foot. So you can renovate twice or a little bit even more of the existing stuff than you can building brand new. So that's, you know, it's gonna be tough.
So the other part of that also from both sides of town, the parity of both sides of town is that we're building 240,000 square foot high school on the east side. Capital already started at 260, whatever that number was, the big building anyway, 250,000 square feet. Then you will take the 30,000 square, whatever the library is, we'll take that offline. But then you add more square feet to it. Now you're having a building that's going to be 260,000 square feet, and we're building 240,000 square feet on the other side of town. So we're 20,000 square feet different. And so trying to make sure that we're somewhat close in our square footage on both sides of town for 1,350 kids. So we want to make sure that we use our space wisely. So if we have 260,000 square feet here and 240 on the other side of town, can we not add more than just find the space that's already built to accomplish our goals?
Right, 40 includes PAL, right? And so that.
I don't know if it does. I don't think it does either. But
No, I think that was.
it's gonna be a bigger with PAL than with PAL with some. But anyway, we have there's footage in this building. The problem with the building itself is a lot of dark dungeon area that no one wants to use for classroom. That's why you want to get up and get some daylight.
Yeah.
But we know that performing arts is important to us. And where does it fit? If it's new square feet, then it's at $450 a square foot versus finding something that's inside the building at $250 a square foot.
Yeah.
So those are the things that we're working through right now.
Yeah, what I wanted to make sure I was pointing out is what Rex just covered was, just because we're not gonna build we can't afford to build a big brand new performance art piece. That doesn't mean we're not gonna take the space that they're currently in and make sure that it's upgraded, that it's a, much better environment. That's not the case. I mean, but renovation is a lot less expensive than if we're gonna go out and put brand new footage on the building. That's the whole point. So it's not that it's not gonna get taken care of. It's not that they won't have a nice space when we're done. It's just whether it's gonna be able to remain in the footprint and be done at much less expensive or have them build new footage.
So you could, for less money, renovate the space and give them window light.
They would have to figure out how to get daylight in there.
Yeah. And we wouldn't probably put them in the basement. We really would try to get them up closer to what is.
We gotta get them awning arts.
Yeah, we gotta get them up out of there. So that'll be a necessity. What that means is there may be some of these other spaces that do that to shrink. So like, for instance, we have coaches' offices and storage for PE, that may have to go downstairs, right? So that we can use that. We'll figure it out. We will figure it out. And this actually is the essence of schematic design, right? This moving, pushing and pulling, right? Like we can easily move lines on paper, but what I'll tell you is the second that our engineers get involved and we start moving lines, they don't like us much. So we like to keep that to a minimum if we can.
I appreciate that, Rex, you're trying to make it equitable, but the fact is, in one site, you're building a completely new school. And the other one, you're working within an existing footprint. So you, just from the get-go, they're gonna be a little different because of the cost involved and moving stuff and you're keeping.
Yeah, and it's, I think that's okay too, because you're talking about the square footage and I know on paper they're numbers, right? But you get to build a brand new, more efficient school. So if we have a basement, we have specific purposes for that that may not include the classroom. So now we can build up, we can move stuff around. So just like she's saying, we have a lot more freedom with brand new build. So I'm not so much concerned with square footage when we're talking about equitable and that sort of thing, just making sure that the programs and things fit into what we need and all the culture of the school too.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this is gonna be an amazing this part of the school is gonna be awesome. What I will tell you, if we were designing today, it would not be this big. Like it would be smaller. So part of the reason that we're big is because it's the way that the existing buildings are set together, you can't, it's just,
You're working with a footprint that's already established. We don't have the flexibility other than going, well, we can tear some of it out, we can add more to it. really, you're confined to a square foot base of footprint.
And you're counting CTE, right? In a footprint too. I mean,
Yes.
that's already just a necessity of larger footprint, but it doesn't mean classes are going in there.
Yeah, so the existing CTE is like 21,000 square feet, the existing one, but there's some other like photographies in there, and there's like some other flex lab space and stuff.
Literally, I think what we're gonna see is a CTE building is gonna be a little smaller than what we currently have. But that's not really what it intends to be, because you're gonna pull out photography and drafting out, all of that comes out back into the building. And so you don't need to have those CTE courses out in a separate CTE building and build a new, because it can fit within the structural wings of the building. So you are going to have a smaller CTE, but with less programs in it, which allows more square feet for the ones that are trying to live in it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Yep. But yeah, the 250 includes that existing CTE, the existing building, right? And so that goes away too, right? So, you know, the library comes offline. The library comes offline at 30,000 square feet, which is 3 floors of 10. And then there's a little bit of that central kitchen, it's kind of single floor balcony piece, that'll go away too. But we're working through all of that, right? Yeah, so where the central kitchen is at, we go back one up. Click happy here. The central kitchen is, you know, it will be renovated, but we can't do that until the new central kitchen is built, right? So that's, you know.
And you guys know this probably already, but the central kitchen is probably the top priority on the campus, right? That's coming fast track.
Yep.
Because that one in the dirt and moving dirt with that.
Which is great, and a necessity, but it won't keep us from moving forward, but it will, you know, it does have to happen before we can do any work in that locations. What else got I missing on this board? Auxiliary gym. Yeah, auxiliary gym is right, where Scott's pointing. There will be new bathrooms, you know, that actually are ADA accessible and, you know, be from the standards. So the upper floor is where the new library media center will be. Whatever that looks like, but this is kind of the space that we have pumped out right now. So we're working with the librarians and the school to figure out what that program is gonna be and how we're gonna make, you know, the number of books and then, you know, the circulation and all the other things that can happen in there. But we do want that to be in the heart, which now is, where before it's kind of this destination location, right? And this will be up above. This will be, you'll be able to see down below, and have some good visibility from the rest of the school. So that, again, to the right, that kind of X spot is open to below. And we'll bring natural light down that can filter all the way to what is the basement through those kind of openings. And we will be rebuilding the new 4 science classrooms that were in that, you know, in that library center will get rebuilt. We also have the ability to build some new classrooms down here and create some new spaces that are accessible. Whether that was some of those other spaces out in the existing CTE, like the photography or some of the other spaces, but this will give us the ability to get the needs of the school and the need for the future, that the school need for the programming for the teacher.
So this is all science, that's science?
All data science. There's some other classrooms that are scattered into those spaces that might be beneficial to have next to the science would be the idea. Whether that's the medical, also tech, and some of the other stuff might be inside those locations as well. Yeah. And then obviously renovating the classrooms. This current plan shows the visual arts, your ceramics, your, you know, drawing, painting, all up on the 3rd floor. That, you know, that may move up, that may move down, but this is kind of where we have a lot of that in the second year.
I like this 3rd floor, I think the reason why is that you can manage to all your science, if you have liquid ventilation needs, then you come out, you know, if you run through 3 levels of classroom space, And then also with your art, you can bin out, up to gallons of that, yeah, so you're not burning that up the side of the wall or three classrooms. Yep.
I have a quick question about, this is more broadly through the building. I'm assuming that the staff were engaged in thinking about, where they wanted to be located relative to departments. So for, I'm thinking about interdisciplinary work and sort of the more traditional, siloing off different departments. Did they participate in being, let's say you want math links to science, or the English people could say, no, we really think that, the English right next to the science.
So there's a couple of strategies that we can do. Right? One, we could say, let's get all the 8th graders in all of the classrooms kind of together so that they don't have to move all over the school, right?
Yeah.
So we had some good conversations. And then it's really, let's get the departments together. And it really turned out that we really want the departments to be collected together. One, because you have teachers that move grades. So you may not have the same time teacher teaching 8th and 9th grade. They may the next year want to teach 10th grade, but they want to kind of stay in their general location. So it really felt like keeping those departments connected was more sense than trying to keep the grades connected, if that makes sense. So the answer is that yes, we had some things, but we still need to spend some time vetting this plan with them to make sure that, so we have them together, but we need to make sure that where they're together is okay. And that's gonna happen kind of, we still have some work to do with the districts, with Brett, to make sure that, that equitably it's all there. But we will be reviewing these with the staff probably in April, a little bit further.
Yes, it's schematic.
I'll add on to that, Jacob. We had one meeting with all staff so far. And we met with each department and we did talk about interdisciplinary opportunities. First thing that came to mind since we're on this plan is math and science. And right now they're interested in that. They don't currently do that very often, if at all, but they like that idea. And so, yeah, we've started those conversations, and when we meet again, we'll continue to develop those and make sure we have program adjacencies that'll support curriculum goals.
This is Erica.
Yeah, I was just sorry.
Hi, I'm Erica with RTA Architects. I can't tell who's quite in the room, but.
You have Doug with you today?
He's on.
He's on.
Hey, Doug.
Hi, Rex.
Glad you're here. Thanks.
So this is, we haven't updated this mapping in the video, so some of the CTE stuff is still in flux and still getting moved. But overall, this video is, again, you've seen this, but this is, the white is what's new and the color is what's existing. And so you can really start to see what this is gonna do for that identity and feeling of it. Yeah. Hey.
Thinking back to, will there be more space to eat? Well, this is all new, so you can see that that's all going to be opened up for homes area. We really, when we started this conversation a year ago, selling to our community that we look like for kids. And so I think that's a really good illustration of that. That's not only that, but then you take a hole in the floor, in the pan, and then you have the downstairs cafeteria that opens up as well. So there's gonna be a lot of space in there for students.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other breakout spaces too, whether it's for cafeteria time or whether it's for like studying time during class or breakout time. I mean, it's gonna be great. They're doing a good job.
What I don't see is that potentially could be some new space out here for performing arts.
Yeah,
Back out here somewhere.
In this design, it wasn't in this one yet, and again, if we can afford it, it'll get in there right away, but.
And then some of those brown pop-ups, I mean, is that what we're talking about opening up for the natural light to come through?
Am I
The
missing
site
that?
plan, you
Is this just, that's just internal opening up the floor? Not guideline or type concepts and stuff?
This is in the gymnasium, so it's just there's no floor print there, but, yeah.
Is that the same thing or?
Sort of. This doesn't show the way we're gonna get that natural light in 100%, but that is the plan.
This is just saying that it's open because there's gonna be a ceiling to this.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, so there's no floor level.
Okay, thank you.
Do you know, like Helena High has a name? I think kind of reflecting their culture and the culture of Helena. Are we at that point yet? What is the culture of Capital? Have we determined that? Because even as parent of 3 grads, it's always been very murky. Like, well, you know,
Yeah.
have we done any work into that? Like how they, what does capital mean to the student? As if, you know, Helena High seems to have more coherent identity, whereas capital, at least from my perspective as a parent, seem to be more split between different groups other than the west side, right? So when you talk to, what's the culture feedback you're getting, or what's their vision?
Yeah, so part of the DAG group, the design advisory group, was trying to like point kind of who are we, what is our culture? That may be something we need to like kind of address and reevaluate with the group, but we do know that it's an important part of the students. That was a big piece.
Brett would be able to answer that.
I think,
I
I think we have a baseline set of information from the,
Doug, can you hold on 1 second? We're gonna let Brett talk. Thanks.
Yeah, both today, but I think going back to the survey, you know, we had a lot of students participate in that. And, you know, overwhelmingly was that the sense of the breakout areas, just the ability to hang out. You know, and hopefully have more students remain on campus at lunchtime, during intervention time, and really have more places for school after school. So, really the breakout, places that was, you know, I think that was really an area that really, came through, but, you know, I think just listening to students and, whether it's the CTE, whether it's the activities, you know, just improving those areas, so.
Yeah, and I mean, it is important with schools that, you know, if you have a group that learned and likes this, that we create space for everybody too, right? Doug, do you want to chime in as well too?
no, Brett captured it. We've got that information, at least a good foundational set of information from both the survey and the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats dialogue that we've had. And the students, as we've said before, the 6 students that have been participating in the design advisory group process have been fabulous. They've been a huge influence on the process.
Yeah, I think the fact that there's never been a common space meant that my kids had very different experiences. And you just didn't get as much of a common thread because they all went into different areas of the school for lunch, and no one, aside from assemblies.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Because there's been times in my career where I've been in buildings where it inherently pushes kids indoors and it's spread. Like they just go away and they go in hallways and stairwells and teachers' rooms and they don't get a chance to be together. And that's one of the guiding principles, the core principle of why we want to do this, is that we get a common area where kids can come and be together. And it's really important.
And I'm thinking I think that's a great question. So within our modern band classes, a lot of times they're hosting concerts at lunchtime. But we have so few students that even head that way because of course they're going to the student parking lot. They're heading out to those west exits. So I'm just thinking, I'm sitting here thinking right now, with that large commons area right in the middle, we have those modern band performances right in that auditorium. We're gonna have more students because they're gonna be hanging out because they're just gonna hopefully migrate from that middle part of the building commons area right into that auditorium.
Yeah.
So I think that's just a perfect example. Then we'll see more students being able to see students perform at lunchtime, and it'll be awesome.
But the other great thing with this design and kind of the breakup is that it's not all gonna be one type of space. Like we have the ability to create those kind of flexible spaces that students that like quiet or students that like to be all around a crowd. I mean, there'll be really a place for everybody else.
And if you visualize that, if you visualize that from the top, you have library, people like that, you can see spill down into this, ground level. There are gonna be kids milling around in that, and then just spill back down into that, what's now the old dungeon cafeteria, that'll be opened up with lights. So you're gonna have 3 levels of really areas of communal area. That kids can be, right?
And that's.
So you'll actually be on your performance in the commons.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
Right. And in some ways, doing this to Brent's point, we will actually start seeing that identity being born because of this. Yeah, because it's, that's. You know what that necessarily doesn't look like, that's gonna be somewhat up to the students to like be able to like define, right? And the culture of the school itself and kind of inherently grow and change over time. Will be great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's important because they're on their way to becoming this is part of that differentiation process.
Yeah, yeah, I think you guys have seen it too. I mean, different classes have different cultures and natures and qualities. They're none are good or bad, but they're just different, right, Brett? I mean, yeah. They're very different. 30 years of it. That's kind of different. So really quickly, we want to, I don't know how much time we have left, we're getting there, but we want to show you guys kind of the, this, in our last DAC 5, this was another gallery walk we did, and this is visually kind of like, what do you like? What do you not like? And so we spent some time going through the group, kind of identifying the imagery, kind of the exterior of what this space might look like. Some of it is about texture and material. Some is about quality of light, some of it is about, like the massings, because right now we have a space, but it doesn't, we can push and pull and make this kind of really what we want it to be, or what you guys want it to be. So that's what these boards are. Scott, do you want to talk a little bit about kind of the pros and the cons and what we heard a little bit?
Yeah, one of the most unique things, of this, we found was upper right corner. This building got all reds.
What did red mean?
And nobody liked it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure about the color scheme.
And this building got all greens and it's the same building.
Oh.
So this goes to show you what photography can do in different settings, but, the majority of it, a lot of the greens, large commons, outside space, collaboration space was a big hit. This area, where's that really? This one. This one is outside, that's in Texas. But it's got this great, wonderful outdoor courtyard that just connects. So students especially love that one. This is Deer Park, and this is on the trip tour next week. So we'll see this, on Spokane.
Want to talk about that real quick? Your trip next week?
Yeah.
Yeah, you already got it. It's on your agenda. Do you want to do it now?
You.
Okay, we'll do that at the end.
Okay. Yeah, so just a great variety, and more green and yellow stickers than red, which is always good. So it was nice to see that. Yeah.
If that were still gonna be a set back, is some of these examples here, or our entrance doors coming closer?
So there was some courtyard space in the back of the building on the north side, right? So there'll be a little bit of, there'll be some of this character you can get kind of all around the building. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the plan probably did better because the entrance is right like the center, but it's got a little block of space in the front, and Jacob talked about it in the back, more picture.
So we took some of that information and last week, we actually went down to Colorado Springs. We spent a day and a half with our TA really just intent kind of design shred, like trying to figure out what all of this meant and what it might look like. So this is it's a lot of sketching. But that's kind of how we like to work at these initial stages. So these are a couple images of the work that we did. We split up into 3 groups. Some of us looked at CTE, some of us looked at the Harvey School, and some of us spent time looking at what the entrance might look like and how those kind of gallery boards might play into what this building may or may not look like. So this was the main entrance boards, and Scott, you worked on this group mostly.
Yeah, the entrance. Yeah. Up to, so our project side of the woods say what's on grade. So the new main entry, what's that going to be? And so just looking at all the different layouts that are gonna be across the front of the new transformation, how that might start to look from Brady looking towards the new Campbell High School. So, and then just some other options here, we've got a quick painted PHS, the end of original 1957 building where we're taking the 1997 one. So just looking at all different kinds of ideas that you do to create that image at the front door.
So this was, the heart of the school and how some of these volumes may play and how we may push and pull and create openings and get light into the space. And so these were some section vignettes and diagrams. Your on plans on your sheet don't have all of these, they have a few of them. But these were some graphical elements that we're looking at. So some of what you see in this vertical is how we may use the roof and the forms to try to bring light into the building, you know, we may look at these skylights, but the reality is we'd rather get the massing to bring, you know, translants, some high windows light in instead of skylights that tend to leak in our atmosphere. So, yeah, and also the fronts and the edges of the building will also bring light in as well too. So that's kind of what these we're looking at and how we might do that. This was the CTE. The CTE, was tricky, right? Because we still don't quite know how it's gonna fit and the size that it's gonna be. So you won't see as many like exterior views and programmatic, but on the right side, you can see how if we did stack these might be together, how they might look together. So these were some different shapes and pieces and parts that we're looking at.
Is this slope on the end where the CTE is it the same all around the potential new building, or does it vary? Because that everyone wants to have.
So one of the things that we will do is whatever imagery and kind of architectural style we want to try to bring elements of that all the way through this, so it doesn't feel like just chopped on different pieces of parts. So the answer is we don't quite know yet, but we will try to bring elements throughout all of the additional work that we do so it feels cohesive and collective. Is that a fair statement? So this one doesn't show that yet, but we don't know the answer to that quite yet. We'll get there. Now CTEs inherently being big shop spaces and big and open typically get built a little bit more quickly. And so we'll get there. I mean, like not quickly, but we're not gonna be putting as fancy a brick and block and windows on the CTE as we do on the main entrance, right? It'll be a little bit more industrial in nature and how it's used. And so it'll feel a little bit different, but again, the style will try to match some shading. So, this is our SEPTED. This is the security and safety. So Erica, I believe this stands for crime prevention through environmental design. I believe is what SEPTED stands for. But we don't know.
Yep, you nailed it.
This is the site. This is, you know, how we're going to keep, from a site standpoint, because there's these different levels that we protect. And we are working with the district and they have a SEC group that's on board. But these are some plans that we've developed for them to kind of see our initial thoughts of how we would do this. So we have cars, and again, like we talked on the site, we're trying to separate as much of the traffic as we can, trying to get good visibility to the site and to the school, you know, to the grounds. And then inside, what we're currently planning on, this may vary, but kind of this idea of compartmentalizing the spaces, right? So each of the classrooms will have specific locks that can be locked in some way, but these schools won't have like the panic buttons where probably all the doors close and lock, but there will be compartments that doors are on a panic button that we can close and lock. And if you're in one of these compartments and you're not supposed to be there and bad things are happening, the only place you can go is basically outside the building. You can't get into the other compartments or the other areas of the building. This is something that we'll work with Holding and the district to make sure that this is going to fit the needs and what the district wants to do.
And then I'll ask Shane. Shane's been in communication now with Jason Russell, SEC. So you had several conversations in the last week.
Yes.
What's the progress there?
Yeah, we're already setting up workshops with Helen and I, and as soon as we start landing probably a little further along in design, we'll do the same thing here. Yeah, he was very helpful and very knowledgeable, so it'll be a good learning curve for myself as well. But yeah, it's already being set up for next week, and capital will be right down the line as soon as we can land on a footprint. Right now, we just don't know, as long as we're starting to get some semblance, either get much input until then, so.
And Erica with our team she's on the 710, you know, the advisory groups and stuff that naturally, so it's important to her, it's important to us. So we've already started thinking about that, and then we'll work with the district to make sure that we get it right.
To Eric's point too, or Eric's point that when we went through the interview and the screening process, one thing that stood out among a lot of things, but her knowledge around safety and security was really evident during the screening. So we appreciate her input to this as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask for a pause here just for a moment. Trustee Hathorn has a question for us, or a comment. Please, Siobhan.
Oh, thank you. I apologize. It was kind of blurry. I heard some conversation about the north side, and I know that was a building area that, was vetted and was decided for that not to be the front of the school, which sounds like you've come up with a really good plan. But if you could just state like how that's going to look better from that side. It just doesn't look like an amazing school. So that was the question that I had for this building.
From Custer, Siobhan?
Yes.
Yeah, looking down to the south, I'll answer that quickly, and then you guys fill in the gaps. Well, first thing is the CT building goes away. That old metal building is gone. So that inherently helps, immensely, just from looking at coming down Custer, looking back to the south, and your career and technical education building that's old will be reduced. On top of that, I've always had a problem with just a football field, practice field, looking like it does there, looking off the Custer. That's going to be all enhanced, and it'll be turf field. So that also will be visually appealing as you're coming down Custer. It'll be a new turf, new field, and no CTE. And then you guys will then, I've asked Slate to help influence that north-facing side of the building with a new entrance, and then you're gonna have off to the northwest side of that, a big career and technical education center that's going to have signage and some sort of indicator that it's Capital High School. That's what I see coming at it.
Yeah, the other thing too is by moving the actual track and actual field to the Custer intersection, a lot of the sled and the North 40 practice field, we can move off.
That's always been a problem for me, the practice sled, the pits and everything just kind of hanging out there. It's just cool. It's what we do for business, but it doesn't look great, especially out on the north side. So that all changes with the field being moved, and then the CT building going away and enhancing that north entrance for the staff.
Yep. And actually moving the tennis courts will help too, because, I call it 20-foot fencing, but I think it's only 12. I think Todd was saying it's not 20 feet tall, but it feels tall, right? When you drive up, it's chain link fencing,
You haven't seen my tennis game, it needs to be 20. Yeah. Does that help, Siobhan?
That does. I was really hoping that there would be money left or set aside to improve that field and make it look like a great place to be. So yeah, that sounds great. Thank you.
We'll work into that, absolutely.
Yeah. So we're running out of time here, but Scott's gonna talk a little, I didn't get this up, I was tardy on getting our agenda up for the site trips, but do you wanna talk, where will we going?
Yeah, so site trips will happen Monday, Tuesday. So 6 a.m. leaving Monday morning, and it sounds like 4 or 5 black Suburbans, black tinted windows. Yeah.
And you're going to schools?
Yes. Yeah, and so, no, I'm just kidding. I don't know what the Suburbans are. So the first one will be about 11 o'clock local time, which will be noon our time. We started with Lewis and Clark economists, so they call them. So it's almost like Great Falls High. So original high school, and addition to that. And then there was Shadle Park. Oh, thank you. Yeah, Shadle Park, we've looked at all kinds of YouTube videos of each of these, and Shadle Park, really, they did a real fantastic addition a few years ago. And then West Valley, in with West Valley, that was about 3:45 p.m. And then from there, it's just kind of breakout sessions, get together with staff. Next morning, going to Deer Park. And so Deer Park is a little John north of Spokane. That's the one that if you remember I showed. We've got a nice big brand new commons on that as well. And then we'll end with Meade High School, and the Meade staff suggested we also look at Meade Middle School. And so they're going to shorten our time at the high school, and we'll add to it middle school and back on the road.
Why did they suggest you go to the middle school?
It's a recent addition, and they've got a really robust program. So they wanted to show us that.
When we went to, Helen High Trip, one of the middle schools was, like profound in how it controlled its interior lighting, its environmental controls, one of the new buildings. So it's pretty cool to see the middle school, how they integrate, collaboration spaces that could be applied to this was that. So. The architects, thanks for asking us.
Thank you so much. Are there, we have question, any other questions online or?
Just for my own curiosity, when you, I don't want to pin you down, but when do you think you go to design docs?
So we want to take this information that we get from the site visits. We pushed our DAG 6 to the 17th. We also want to take that information from that. So we're looking at finishing schematic design March 27th is our plan.
Okay, March, so we'll run into here, but running back into.
We need some time to make sure we got to work, right?
Yeah, I don't mean that by pressure. I just want to, in my mind, know when that's coming at.
Yeah, now that said, some of the summer work, we met with our entire engineering team yesterday, and Langless was on that group, and we are moving forward with making sure we can get some of the summer work ready to go, so,
anything to add? Oh, good.
I think my biggest concern is that the entry into Capitol High now is kind of underwhelming. It doesn't reflect what happens in the school on that. You're taking some down, but you're keeping some and making that cohesive and yet drawing you in and within budget, which is part of the reason why I think we voted the other day,
Yeah.
but.
The reason why you.
Yeah, that's my main concern is getting cohesive, eye-catching, distinctive look within the budget.
Yeah.
So shouldn't miss.
That's what he knows that I've been pushing on. I mean, this is it has been a major consideration is making sure that we are not just making this building okay. That we touch classrooms, that aesthetically it's the right look, and that it fits our budget. And we're pulling levers every day, making sure that we're able to do this.
This is it's gonna be a whole team effort. We're all gonna, make sacrifices and make the right decisions, and we're gonna get there, as a group.
And I just want to add to and I know this is down the line, so I'm aware of it, but just to have the, kind of thought going there is showcasing student work. Because one of the things that I noticed, like JT, we love that our sports team are doing so well, we have the state championships. I did not see any of the pottery, artwork, posters from our orchestra groups that got together. That was all down in the basement. And there was a big flower thing when we went to tour and then a couple of things in there. So just kind of something to think about as we kind of go down the road, we have breakout spaces and stuff, but a way to kind of equal out, all of the wonderful abilities of our students there.
Yeah, and AD and SMA and the Helen High project's coming online, here in a minute. But making sure that we have parity between the two sides of town, we apparently have a archway that we're gonna incorporate those big, glue lamps. That's going to end up being like a Hall of Fame, walking down the corridors of that. So I don't want to have something as significant as that on one side and not being able to showcase
are what we have on the website. And we're gonna have plenty of ability to do that with the space that we have.
Yeah.
We don't show that yet, we haven't figured it out yet, but we will.
One of the other really amazing things we saw on one of the trips was the ability to showcase a program by just being in the school. The way the school's designed, the way the classroom connects to the hallways, glass in between where teachers are also showcasing student pieces, whether it's construction or art or whatever, like those, when they can personalize those spaces, kids walk through them, they know what to register for. They think what their future could be.
That's a great point, Josh, and to your question, or comment, trustee Wells, is that's a great look for when our staff is out in other buildings and saying, how are other schools in the district showcasing not just your athletic, but also all other activities? Yeah, that's a good look for it. Okay, we are about time, but
Thank you.
you did a nice job.
Thank you all.
It's been We're just gonna come back after a recess. We will reconvene right now.
Okay, if I will, I'll get started. Thank you again for sharing today. 3 announcements. One, I want to thank Robert and your team. Great lunches were very well received. Thank you for your work. And then all 3 on the tables also through Robert and your team. So thank you for that. No, I don't normally dress this way. This is in celebration of, there's a couple of us running around, one on that side of the table, one over in the corner. It is Mr. McKay's 13th and a half birthday today. He is a leader guy. So we're celebrating Mr. McKay's 13th or 30th or 52 or 53 birthday. So happy birthday, Mr. McKay. That's why we're dressed in these great shirts. They're gonna go viral. We're gonna put them on TikTok. It's gonna be a thing. So if you wanna buy one later, reach out to our investor. And then, in all seriousness, thank you to the Helen campus team, ADSMA and Dick Anderson for last night. Great turnout. I thought the meeting was really well received in the format of migrating around, asking questions. I saw people at your sites most of the evening. So nice work. Thanks for being there. And with that, do we have an hour or an hour and a half scheduled for hour and a half? Hour and 8 minutes. I know that, Trustee Walsh has to get, Jen, are you working today or are you on?
Schedule it after this.
Okay, so, well, there are some people that have, other real jobs after this one, so, you good for about an hour and 15? Yeah, come and go as you want. Also, ADSMA and Dick Anderson, I believe that we have a couple of trustees that are also on the time. Okay, that being said, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Sounds good, Dave, thanks. And yeah, thank you for last night. That was actually kind of an interesting format. And I think it gave people liberty to just kind of come up and stare at the content, whereas before there was less content. And we could kind of just sit and talk about it and questions, but that really helped a lot. It was a good turnout. So today, obviously, variations of what you've already been through this morning. But since we just wrapped up our schematic design phase and have delivered the document, we kind of thought that this would be a good opportunity. And most of this was presented to you at the board meeting recently. But we kind of thought this would be a good opportunity to really just kind of say, from a public meeting standpoint, we wanted to present a lot more detail, obviously a lot more dialogue about that schematic design milestone. And kind of, we're already well into design development and a lot of respects in a lot of meetings. There's been dozens of meetings already just in this.
Yeah, we have 40 meetings scheduled. I think we have 4 left. And then I think we're gonna go back for round 2 because we didn't nail down some space.
Yes, it's been like 30 some meetings just in the last few weeks. Which is that kind of the fun part is you really can turn on the ears and listen to what some of the needs are, and they start giving feedback on what they're seeing being developed with staff and whatnot. But again, what we really look for today is sort of a collective, including us, including DHC. We want to kind of say that today is that we're stepping over the line of in some sense, not formally necessarily, Rex kind of has to do this, but formally accepting schematic design, right? We want to basically say that after today, we don't want to make a whole lot of large moves. We want to be able to make more detailed moves because that is this next phase of design development. Obviously, we're developing what is designed. Schematic design is we're kind of done pushing and pulling the bigger moves and highs and lows and all of that. That said, the stadium is still kind of movable because we haven't gotten that far on that. But how it affects the high school is kind of been vetted. But Allie will walk you through what we're going to do is we're going to actually kind of show you. It's sort of a really expanded slideshow in that it's the schematic design deliverable, which is 100+ pages. And so what we're going to do is kind of just so you can be familiar. That way, when you download it and review it, if you haven't already, you kind of understand how it's structured and what's in there and what to look for, how to understand the document. And then there's a lot of other like appendices and stuff like that you'll be able to download
to some of those decisions and design ideas, including like the ed spec, the education specification for the program and all the spreadsheets. If you're into those things, man, then you're a champ. That's really detailed, nerdy stuff, and that's what we do. So yeah, she's gonna walk through the deliverable. By all means, this is gonna be obviously a dialogue. We feel like we wanna get to all of it, but please jump in as you see fit, and she'll take us through this.
Housekeeping wise, for Dick Anderson and Amy, is that the microphone and camera's coming off the owl. So we do have people online. It's a little hard to hear that, so we want to speak up into the owl.
I never usually have too
You
much.
didn't have it all. I said it for Al,
Jack. So we completed schematic design 2 weeks ago Thursday, and we actually started design development meetings earlier that week. So we've been fully in design development. But going back to schematic design, we had a number of deliverables for that deadline. We have a deliverable book, which we'll go through today. That's more high level, more graphic. That really tells a story of the process and where we're at in design. We also have deliverable drawings. So part of the effort is not only to kind of document where we're at in design, kind of put a bow on schematic design, but it's also to inform pricing and construction questions and how Dick Anderson is going to move forward. So part of this is just giving them enough information to start doing takeoffs, to start understanding the scope, to start understanding, you know, the level of finishes, what the systems are. So part of this is not only for you guys to really understand where we're at in design, but it's also to inform where we're at as far as pricing. So along with that book, we also put together drawings that are scaled so that they can start to do some of that work and ask us those questions. Apart from those two pieces, we also have a number of appendices. Some of them are really just to outline the whole design process so that if you want to see every step that we took with the building committee, with the core admin group, that's available to look at. We also created 2 documents that again support that cost estimating effort. One was a room book that the thought there is that we identify classrooms and start speaking through what the flooring is, what the wall finishes are, what the ceilings are, what the lighting is. So really trying to identify each space within the building and say what the level of finish is so that Dick Anderson can start to understand that a little bit better. We also took a little bit different take on this. It was kind of the first time we did it, but we created a material data spreadsheet so that we could better inform our teammates. A lot of times schematic design is based on a square foot cost. And we wanted to give them more information than just for them to go to their, other projects they've recently did. We wanted to say, here's the flooring, here's the wall surfaces. These will probably change, but here's a place to start. So we really just wanted to give them more information so that they felt better about the numbers they were providing back to all of you. So this is kind of a new thing. I think we're learning from it. And I think when we move into design development, that's really where we start to make these decisions. So it was a little early to say some of these things and give this information out, knowing that it would most likely change, but we wanted to start somewhere so that we could start to track that. And again, as we move into design development, we'll actually know what the casework is, what the forming is, what the wall protection is, things like that. So that's really kind of what that deliverable looked like when we sent it out a couple weeks ago. Any questions on that? So we're going to stay a little bit high level and go into the book, which I don't know if you guys have seen. Again, all of these, if we were sent to Rex and probably forwarded on, they're all in our share file, file sharing, so you can download these all. So into the deliverable, the first part of this is actually an acceptance piece, and that's just something standard that we do just to kind of finish up schematic design. And then of course, table of contents, hard to read. But we kind of start again with big picture, schematic summary. We talked about the building program that was kind of taken back from the specs after we started schematic design. We did a meeting with Brian and Josh to really check in on that, how it measures against what's happening at Capitol High. And we got a better understanding that we do need to add a few classrooms. You know, there are some things that weren't quite equitable between the two schools. So really trying to balance those two programs so that they can kind of run the same type of, you know, education at both. And then I will say, once we got into schematic design near the end, we came to the point where we needed to look at how much square foot we had against how much budget we had. And so we had to do a little bit of slimming back, and we worked again with them to really look at what spaces felt a little bit like they could reduce and could still provide the same education. So that was some of that process. And then we'll look at schematics design, which is a lot of kind of the end pretty pictures of site, the building, interiors. I did give you an overall of the 3 floors of the building. That is really hard to read, but we did on the next pages give you some plan perspectives so you can kind of get a better sense of the space and see how some of those are shaping up, but we'll go through that.
It's hard to read because these plans are gonna be,
Yeah.
you know, they're obviously gonna be large format and it's a big building. So yeah, it's, we're kind of working in small pictures from here on out. Unless
Yeah.
we're gonna start rolling things out. That'll be more for Dick Anderson communication.
And then part of this is also project narratives. So each of our consultants put together basically a description speaking to what they knew about design up to this point and kind of the guidance so far. And then we had them try to take, you know, some of that and put it into what you know, those products might be in the spreadsheet. But that was more of a high level design narrative. So Dick Anderson knew what they were pricing and what the scope looked like from their perspective. And then we also did a code summary, because this is a big building and somewhat complex, so starting to look at code and the implications there, and then project schedule, and then kind of see, but. So we'll kind of move through this a little bit quickly. Again, building program, that's something that this really just outlines the process we went through that I just described. And kind of shows where we landed with the program. That's really the template for the building, and then as we start to get real, some of those numbers shift around, but those are really our target numbers for that. So thematic design, you know, starting with site plan. Tim, do you want to describe this one a little bit, or how much detail do we want to go into? I don't know if you guys have seen much of this, but
We're working on this.
we've seen a lot of this, so.
Yeah, by the way, this is the first presentation I've done with a bag of chips in my hand. So that's why these lunch meetings are.
I got you beat. I did Declan a couple weeks ago.
So I mean, really just, this part of the document is really just kind of describing the process and results of how we're seeing some of this land. You know, the parking that's represented is really high level. We haven't gone through with our engineer and kind of said like, this is the maximum efficiency of fitting what we can fit. This is more of kind of just where we're at now, but kind of wanted to describe the articulation between how we wanted the stadium to set, where we want the bleachers to go. You can see if we start putting bleachers on both sides, really creates a pinch point with the high school. And that's a thing that we feel like has landed, but we also are open to want to have discussion on that too. And that's
Views of that.
yeah, we have more views of that that we'll see in more detail three-dimensionally.
So, just speaking a little bit to the way the site lays out, the main entrances in Helena High are kind of in the middle of the commons, and we'll see that in a minute, but this is really the main secure entry, so you can see if students are parking, they're gonna come in this way. We do have a bus, and parent drop off and pick up, on Roberts, and so if it's before school, these doors will be open and students can come in here. We have CT is on the north side, so we do have an apron kind of off that north end of the building. The CT will have a little space for storage and materials and getting access into those spaces. Our existing gym sits right here, so you can see these are actually the arches coming down on the outside. And we'll show you kind of what it looks like on the inside. You can see that already. Performing Arts Center's here. And then Pell is on the lower level. It's actually our weight room, varsity locker rooms. The second floor is where you enter into Pell. So that is a level up from where you enter into Helena High. So it very much feels like a separate facility, like they kind of have their own identity and front door. And we are showing some parking and drop-off spaces here for Powell and then additional parking kind of across the way by the softball fields.
And the district kitchen is up on the north end of the site.
Yeah.
Up by the facilities area, and, yeah, just a super quick update, we actually just recently received kitchen layouts, right? So we're gonna start digging into that more and more here really soon.
Yes.
You just got this.
Yeah, like, well, I mean, we've gotten some draft stuff in the last week or so, but today, even or yesterday,
Yeah.
I think that, we've got some really well thought out, options to look at and.
$1 million flash freezers.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, no, it's actually, it's fitting and it's worked with the programs that we've discussed, so yeah.
So our landscape architect is part of the AMG estimate team, which is really cool. So we've really had a lot of great back and forth. These are just showing some ideas for what that might start to look like. And then again, studies to how the site starts to feel and look. We kind of delved back the area that showed the stadium and track because we're still developing that. But you can kind of get a sense of how the site starts to lay out and work, and how there's some great views out even to the Capitol there. This is from sit in the seats looking across to the main entry, and the area where drop off and pickup will be after school starts. So kind of excited to see how that all starts to come together. Again, there's that access down Cook Street all the way up to the Capitol. That really informed a lot of what happened in front of that main entry and what we did with the seating. So again, still working on site layouts and parking and maximizing some of that.
Question?
Go ahead, Jenny.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, I've had a few questions from community members about just like the drainage concerns where we're putting the stadium and track and kind of that like main entry. Have we figured out how we're going to address those challenges?
And that's a really fair question because of the existing conditions and the water table in that area. There's a handful of ways that we're gonna deal with it. Right now, conceptually, we're getting into conversations about what are the more literal ways we're gonna do it, and there's gonna be some underground management with regard to diversion. But then there'll be a whole new system of stormwater management, especially from a surface drainage standpoint. We want to make sure that we're doing deep foundations when we're, the surface, like the field, that should be less of an issue. We're going to make sure that we understand how the water's moving underneath the field and where those tables are at. But the building wise, we're going to be doing deep foundations, which will add a lot of sealants and membranes and things that are going to keep moisture and water away from the building itself. That will actually be a significant improvement from the existing buildings that are there now. Again, a lot of those details are yet to be vetted with our construction team and with our engineer, but that's the phase we're just now starting.
Don't you think, I mean, just inevitably, with the new site layout, the new school location, middle school going away in the field, inevitably that's helping address.
Just by removing a building from it,
And talking to Greg Worth, he actually said having PAL right up against Billings Avenue actually helps. And we have a lot of roof area where we can take the water, put it where we want it. So even just being able to butt right up to Billings Avenue is helping with some of the drainage issues.
And all that new surface parking, again, we're gonna be able to divert it into a more appropriate place now that we understand how some of the subgrade surface is working.
Can I ask about that? So it makes sense for the football field. How are those folks parking there getting to the gym, basketball games, and volleyball and stuff?
So, I mean, they're probably gonna be walking.
The building, they're walking all the way.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful to look at the floor plans a little bit. So let me just kind of jump in here. So again, I'm just going to kind of go through, but I'll address your question as we go.
Thank you.
So really our anchor point and the thing that we have to consider as we build around building is the existing gym. We decided we want to keep that. It's very expensive. I mean, it's expensive to renovate, but it's really expensive to rebuild all of that infrastructure. It's also very cool architecturally, and we see it as an opportunity to really, relate back to the history of Helena High and celebrate that. So our existing gym is here. We have all this peach color as athletics. We have a new costume. We have renovation into locker rooms and classrooms, weight room. We also have our varsity locker rooms. And then right now, those glue lamps that come down to the ground, they come down in classrooms, they come down in the training room. I think our big idea is that we expose those and celebrate them. So we created this, what we're calling Concourse. I know Jennifer McKee had a really great other name for it, I can't remember, but the Concourse, that's also an opportunity to celebrate athletics, music, all the things that the school is doing. That's also the access back to the music, which is here. The Performing Arts Center is actually accessed right off the commons area. But this is really just a cool opportunity, which we'll see a view of later, to really celebrate that architecture and create space that's kind of a warm-up, cool-down space for tournaments, athletics, even things have like music festivals. So lots of opportunity there. Speaking to some of the questions about if there's basketball game or something going on in the school, the main entrances are off of the commons. So everyone that comes into the school will come into the commons. The west side is our secure entry vestibule, so that that's where if kids are parking or people are coming in, they're gonna park and come in this door. We have a secondary entrance on this side that's gonna be unlocked before school hours. Once school starts, that'll be locked, so everyone has to come in on the west side. I would say for basketball events, stuff in the pack, both doors could be open, so you can park either kind of on this east side, because there is parking there, or you can park up kind of on the northwest side and come in to this commons. But the commons is really where everyone comes in and then goes to their space and activity.
I think we had a question online from trustee Maria Butcher. I'm not sure if it's been answered. See if she can read in.
Yeah, she just asked her.
Okay.
Yeah, that answered my question. Thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah. So our secure vestibule, just north of that is our admin area. And then on the other side, we have our counseling area, and they're really keeping an eye on that secondary entrance. That space also hosts I can't think of what it's called, the pantry and
The banquet closet.
the banquet closet. So that's a little more prominent. Our food service is right here, so we're really like funneling kids in through that. There's kind of a secondary area up here where our main stairs. I feel like I should maybe move to our next view, so that might be better. And then you guys have those.
I think to even further answer some of the parking
Yeah.
question, just to,
Yeah.
one of the things that we did study is that most of the parking in today's setting at Helena High, from a distance walk to the gym, it's actually really similar to how we're laying it out now. There are closer parking spots today than there will be in a few years, but there's ADA accessible parking spots that are very close to or closer to the gym in an appropriate distance, but it's kind of that sort of court plaza area, and there's parking along there, so people will either get preferred parking or if you get there early, that kind of thing, so there's less number of parking. But the distance walked isn't a whole lot different, so I don't know how that's gonna be perceived, but I think that's kind of what the site offers us. Yeah. Does that help a little bit?
It does.
Yeah.
And then one of the bigger things currently is, with vigilante, everyone knows you have to park in those, in the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Right? People coming on the driveway. So in comparison to what is currently there, would you say it's double the size of what's?
From a parking, compared to Vigilante now, I bet you it's close to triple the size. We don't have the exact numbers, but I think that, it's gonna be a lot less sort of, what I'd call, ad hoc parking situation. It's gonna be a lot more deliberate, a lot more, maintained, and it's a lot safer, and it's a lot more school district property. So there'll be people parking in neighborhoods probably still, just because of the limitation on acreage, but it's way less proportional.
Please, Sam.
I have a quick question about, so for those evening extracurricular events, Is there a concern about, you know, cutting off the rest of the build access to?
Yeah,
to the
that's
building?
definitely
So how
something,
does that?
yeah, that's something we're thinking about, not only from that perspective, but also if there was an event at the school, you want to close off some of those parts. So yeah, most of the classrooms are kind of up in this area and then up this stairs, so we'll be able to close off some of those hallways and then moving up. Again, we'll be looking at that. And I will say, I think we have a meeting with SEC next week to start to learn more about what their recommendations might be and what they're thinking. So that's definitely something we're.
It'll be good if we can sort of align those two things, like as the recommendations come in as to how we separate the areas of the school from a security standpoint, odds are that'll work for separation of just, we just don't want people to go there during an athletic or a music event or something.
And I will say we do have doors that go back into music right here, so those are closed. So if there was something going on here, those could be closed off. Or, you know, there's gym doors, those could be closed off. If there's, you know, music class.
There'll be no shortage of doors in this,
But not exterior.
but at least not 36 entrances.
I think part of the, turn back to the community that we work with in partnership with, specifically with Chamber Valley, is that we want to bring people to our community. And these new schools will be able to offer that. Some of the things that we've learned from the last builds is that when you bring community into your school during academic time, is that you can't isolate academics and community. And so really be mindful around that. Brian and I were just talking about the opportunity to run some Class C, Class B, divisionals and or district tournaments. And while we're doing that, so I can see vision, our team's gonna be an issue, but again, communities coming in and watching their kids play a tournament, we can isolate this part of the building off from this section of the building by just the way it's designed. And so I would still like to be able to offer community input, have people come into Hamlet for those aspects, but not shut our school down and not put our students in a higher risk of safety than what we've seen currently. So I think this lends itself to that.
We feel like we need to just have an entrance here.
I think you come through those things, I don't mind it, you know, you think about where you have that in places that I've ever been.
Yeah.
You walk into their main commons, it's that big place, I want to showcase our building.
Yeah.
I don't want to slide them through a side door. I mean, we're to celebrate our building.
We have existing doors, but they're like extra, so there's sort of egress.
I think between us, we can manage that as long as I don't have to have students passing through that area to go to the class, right? And we don't see that in this situation.
Yeah.
We can isolate off that box gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of families like to socialize and stuff before and after.
Yeah.
You see pockets and groups.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out, and then they're standing in the middle.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I
Lesson
like
learned.
the idea of continuing to have that. I don't know, whatever space.
Yeah, Leslie learned that, we do voting out at Jim Darcy. And right where the voting place takes place is right where our kindergartens leak into the hallway. Right, we're really struggling trying to find a balance of our public and academics interchanging there. So if we could rebuild that, we could probably do that differently. We get the chance to do it here. And that same concept in lessons learned is being applied to Kessler. But we don't do the same thing.
So on that first floor, we really had to look at what program needed to be there. So we have our FLS, our PBS, we have a couple of core curriculum labs down there, but then we also have some of the upper levels, just so that they're kind of, you know, in with the rest of the school. It's not, I think we talked about separating PBS and FLS, but then when it came down to it, they realized being somewhat co-located meant that they could support each other better. So they are on that first floor hallway on the east side. And then you can see, sorry, that's not gonna work. You can see on the north side, that's where our CTE shops are. We have our computer science, robotics here, CAD here. So they're very much connected to that. And then art is here on the first floor. And then we do have some spaces. Some of the art rooms go up into the courtyard, so they do have some need for outside access. And then we have some other ways for students to go use the courtyard as well. So any other questions on the others?
Where's the CTE on the first floor?
So CTE, like this is these are all changing as we speak probably, but auto, welding, manufacturing and woods is on the top there. And then this is robotics, computer science, and this is kind of our drafting.
So you're kind of interspersed in there, the art rooms are kind of in there as well.
And then we have a health sciences classroom on the third floor that's kind of co-located near the sciences. And then we also have culinary, it's kind of right up near the stairs there. More.
Are you finding that on the handout, Janet?
Yeah.
Do you see it there?
Okay.
I saw Katie's help, you guys are teaming up over there.
One of the spaces we talked about was a seminar room for accounting that felt much more like what you might see in a college setting. And there was a lot of excitement about that. The grade across the site is about 5 feet difference from the existing gym, which we can't change, down to,
The answer,
Yeah.
let's change the
So-
level of the gym.
So we have to keep stepping down as we go. And one of the great things about that actually supports that seminar room a little bit, because when you, on the high end, you come in and then there's a ramp down so you can enter on the top or the bottom. I think there's like a 3-foot change across it, but it feels much more like what you'd see in a college setting. And I think the thought is, I think right now it's about 60, so you could get a couple classes in there. We've also talked about like watching film for sports. There's an opportunity there, so lots of excitement.
It may even be a good like community lecture space
Yeah.
if the timing was right, if it's scheduled right.
Would you point that on the? I'm just looking for it.
We're gonna take it to,
Thank you.
Yeah.
that's where we
I
can
see.
teach our dual credit classes so that they get that feel.
Yeah.
Oh, college dual credit class there, so it feels like
Yeah.
secondary, yeah, post-secondary.
Great.
That's cool.
Moving up, the green.
Do the 3D.
Oh, yeah, those are way better, sorry, yeah. So the green is general classrooms. This is our faculty lounge. We kind of have, we have our commons and then we have a main stair that goes up to an upper common. So one of the things we've talked a lot about is that the commons really supports kids in different ways. So if someone's looking for a quieter space, they can find that. If someone wants more active space to gather with friends, it supports that as well. So there's kind of this bigger open common space that's a little higher, and then there's this commons that looks down. Library is right above admin, so there's some windows looking down into the commons from there, but then we're talking about doing like a wall system that opens up so the library can kind of welcome students in from the upper commons and kind of bleed out into there. I think they're excited to pull some of their stuff out.
And when she pointed out that faculty lounge up here, this, I mean, just rock star position here. This is such a cool spot on the building, that corner there. And by faculty lounge, Brian keeps on trying to get us to say that is synonymous with Brian's office.
Very good.
But
You will find yourself in there as well.
Yeah. The other side across from the library is the DECA store and marketing. So the DECA store is right next to the marketing classroom, so they can kind of go in and out, but it's really right in the center of the school, both kind of horizontally and vertically. So we're thinking that's a great spot for them to use coffee and pop and cookies and all the things they do. Again, we have our, the rest of those are really just general like classrooms. And then down on the second floor, down on the south side, we have PAL. That's really the first floor of PAL. And they'd be using the existing auxiliary gym during the day, and the evening that could be used for wrestling and as a mat room. And then we're just kind of met about what that second floor of the existing main gym would be. So that's kind of what second floor lays out. And then the third floor, again, second floor of PAL, and then up on the third floor on the north side, we really want to limit, how much space is up there, because we want to make sure to get as much light into the courtyard as we could. So we have science in the dark green. This little spot right here, that's our health sciences classroom, and then the rest are more general ed classrooms.
In terms of, Capital's talking about like grouping math and science. Where is Helen and I talking about?
We were.
Likely, what I asked them to do though on their maps is not delineate specifically what a classroom might be used for, in case we want to get more creative with some of our like cross pathway pairings. But likely you'll have math up with science, just that's a more likely cross curricular connection.
And mainly because math can use a general ed classroom, whereas the science is gonna have to stay up on that number. Just because of the ventilation of labs and all that kind of stuff, they kind of need the roof.
One space I did want to mention, we do have a Native American library kind of overlooking the commons here on the second floor. And there's support space, and then down on the first floor, where we have, near some of our special ed and counseling, we have some of our like transitions, HISET, and then the resilience room, which is served by Helena Indian Alliance right now, so they have a space there too. So some of the co-location of that made a lot of sense, but just want to point out those spaces. I will say in the counseling area, we have 3 offices that are not filled with counselors. And so those are either for itinerant or outside agencies. We talked a little bit about that could be a provider that came in and did sports physicals or served it in another way. Maybe that's managed by the counseling admin. So there is space for that as well.
I think in this phase, it would be really good to kind of learn in one of those flex rooms. Could we or should we make sure that there's a sink in there? Or, you know, I mean, it's a small cost that does create some non-office type space. I mean, you can still put an office in there, but if we got creative on really how it was done between a sink and some casework, because then it could be used as an exam room. If a provider did come in, but is it needed? And to that degree, or do we want to keep them all super flexible and not do any kind of plumbing in them or anything like that?
How wide, I call it like the second commons. I love that you kind of like dramatically increase the common space. How wide is that upper area and the wide staircase?
We have rendered that, we show that space and kind of.
Probably really close to this room right now.
Yeah, so this is a view looking back towards.
That's the lower level.
Yeah.
That's actually the narrower part of the lower level.
Yeah, and this is the upper commons, which felt bigger than I actually thought it would. And so there's quite a bit of space out there.
But the fact that it connects volumetrically or atmospherically with the lower commons and the courtyard next to it.
Yeah.
Feels pretty open.
So when you walk up the stairs, you can see there's really like views back to the courtyard as well. So lots of light is coming into the space.
I would also say, trustees, that if you're standing here, which I think is the east side of that wall, and you're looking back to the west.
The courtyard window is to the south, but then you're looking back west.
Then you're looking back to the west this way. This is all open, and that's overlooking to the main entrance. And so there's another 40 to.
That's looking back
south. And so that's looking back into, the whole open area, which feels much larger than what it really is, because you got that whole open space down below you.
Did you have concerns or?
No, I think I love where the Indian library is, because now either looking out into this open space, or you're gonna look kitty corner and you're gonna look into the other library.
Yeah.
And we've talked about wanting to incorporate education into more and more areas in American education. And I had mixed feelings about the courtyard, but I'm liking it more as we go along.
You're speaking my language.
I think there's a lot of us that feel that way, but the thing that keeps me going on the opportunities that we're leveraging every time we run into, but that would be another good adjacency to the courtyard. It's the complementary adjacencies that is helping that, feeling better about it. It's also, there's a lot of maintenance conversations around it to make sure that that we're doing a good job of being able to access it from outside. But then also just the aspect of, courtyard in general programming, I think, is also like if Principal Kessler is really thinking well about working with the staff and teachers that they should program that to the best of their abilities. So they're using it as an outdoor learning space when they can.
What are the plans for accessing that? I mean, I see maybe the door here on one of these rings. Will there be several?
I feel like things
Ways
have
to get
probably
out there.
shifted a little bit, but there's a hallway on the north side and the south side, and the intent is that there's doors in from there. And then I know, they have some things where they want to take things out into the courtyard to dry or whatever, so they have doors out as well.
Like around the perimeter between.
Yeah,
And then there's gonna be an access here.
right.
That goes into a corridor that, our corridors, at least in that area, will just be a concrete floors. And so they'll be able to bring in a piece of equipment if needed, to bring in, and if they have a ton of snow removal, if it exceeds what the courtyard can handle, but it's gonna be designed to have decent drainage and all of that too.
Space we talked about, but didn't look at was this concourse is what we've been calling it. And I don't remember, Bengal Boulevard is maybe what Jennifer McKee said, but just a cool opportunity to really celebrate the architecture of the school and bring that warmth of the wood back in, and lots of potential to showcase boards and for athletics and the school and music and all the things, so.
Yeah, we kind of feel like this is gonna be a really activated space, especially during events, because people will just kind of stand out there and look at some of the history. If you're at a drama event, you'll be able to stand out there and find relevant trophies, plaques and things like that, certificates, but then as you go up and down, it'll be all of those things, probably on both sides even. We want to make sure that this is we call it like a Hall of Fame corridor kind of idea.
If you look at the performing arts corner, there's actually a space off the commons right when you walk in. That's right here. The idea is that, you come into the space and then you walk into kind of a lobby and then you come into the performing arts center, but there's some cool opportunities with that space to get some light in there and then also potentially showcase, student work with the gallery. I know there's a lot of talk about that, having a public space where they can kind of have a gallery space, and maybe that kind of leads out into the commons, but.
And interestingly, we didn't really program a lobby type of space for the fact, because we have the commons, but just the nature of the seats and the slope of the seats and how deep it is, it does create space underneath the highest seats that generally create lobby space. And it's either used for storage, or because it's on that end of it, we can use it for lobby space. And so it's something that we feel like we're able to take advantage of.
Talk a little bit about how has a lot of the same components, but just on a smaller scale. So again, we have our secure entry. This is where all the students come in and out. This is our admin area. This is counseling. And then we have arts. This is a maker space that really anyone can use. Science. I guess I could go to the perspective on that. That was a little better. We have kind of a CTE room, food service, restrooms. I will say when we met with Matt's team last week, we saw a lot of opportunities to just improve things. So we're kind of scrambling things around a little bit better after meeting with them and understanding what the needs are a little better. So.
Which is common in this space.
Yeah. Yeah.
People are starting to see it as opposed to either just blocks or even just spreadsheets. Now
Yeah.
they're starting to see it.
Just the needs of the counselors are a little different than at Helena High, where if their counselors are kind of out with the students, they'll be able to engage with them better rather than being down a hallway. Like, they really feel like the best way to support their students is to be part of their everyday and for them to be seen. So we're kind of working through some of that a little bit better. This also has kind of a main common spine circulation. There's a stair on either end, of the building, and then, this is mostly where the common is. Now that we have this, big, auxiliary room space, we have a little more room for some of the things they do, like Thanksgiving and some of the graduation and stuff. So then that would actually happen, in that gym space, and that's actually 5 feet lower than the finished floor level that we're coming in here. And so there's been a stair down, to come into that space. There's a connection back to Helena High. This is that concourse. And then there's an elevator here. So, you come in on this side, you go down 5 feet, next in on this side, and then it goes up to the second floor and it goes down to the basement as well. And then the upper level is really a lot of general classrooms. We also have the tech lab that really supports students that have some credit recovery or, trying to get caught up or even in school suspension. But then this also kind of has that feature where there's kind of an upper commons here that looks down on that 2-story space. So again, just lots of opportunities for students to find their little space in there. Questions?
Would you say again where the connection is to the rest of the, my campus? Just point that out again.
Yeah, we got to understand that might be a little easier to see. So there's a little stair down right here. And then this goes back out to, a stair that goes down to the first floor. And I will say, we're still kind of working that through to make sure it really makes sense, but that would be locked. We don't need egress that way for few reasons, but just thinking about the future, that could be opened up if we need, more access to how, or if a student wants to go to music or something, they could just kind of, with the teacher's help, kind of get that down there. And then, there are doors to the auxiliary gym from the upper level of the gym. And those could again have access control so that they're locked in. And, all my students are coming in during the day, but then they're unlocked in the evening when they have practice. The second exit out, is actually kind of through this door that goes down to the lower level and out. So that's kind of our second way out of the building. And that again would be kind of a push to exit thing so that if someone pushes it after 5 seconds, it'll release, but there'll be an alarm. So kids aren't trying to head out that way.
So it's delayed release or released on alarm on a
Yeah.
fire.
There was some excitement from Ryan Cooney because the weight room is just right downstairs. I was like, that would be awesome to take kids down there. So I think some of the benefits of being co-located at Helena High is starting to be realized a little bit, that there's some great things that you would have now that could be used. So, yeah. And then we did some views of the inside. This is a view looking out towards the east down the commons, with food service and, it's a different space than you guys have now. It's kind of a more voluminous space, a little bit different, proportions.
But this coming phase is really going to be the phase where we start really talking about finishes and colors and lighting. Whereas this is more like,
It's like understanding the space.
yeah, it's like understanding the space. We threw some colors in it so you can kind of see some surface changes, but
We did
by
it.
all means, we just kind of threw it at
We did
the.
a like AI generated image with the capital behind. Yeah, and then this is looking kind of in the commons back towards the main entry and down the hallway and up to that upper commons. And then this is a view of that upper common space kind of looking back down, so.
Yeah, did you hear that during the board meeting, I obligated Rex to paint that on?
I've heard that several times.
Would they have little numbers?
That would be,
Yeah, and then back to the outside. I feel like I've been talking a lot. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure, I mean, again, we presented this in the board meeting, so maybe it'd be good, just in the interest of time, that maybe let's flip through some of the exterior views, and then let's just either visit or have questions or whatever, and these you've seen, this is that east side entrance. Previous one was the main entrance, This is just a zoomed out version of that main entrance on the west side. And then this is the PAL main entrance. Again, similar language because it's part of the same building and it might even be Helena High School after 20, 25 years after Matt grows the program to 170 kids or something. Yeah. And they get their own building. Just more of a bird's eye view of some exterior spaces. This is along Billings Avenue. I see the stadium beyond. A little more of a ground view of that.
But if we go back to the ground, was there a playground or something?
So that front, one of the things that's been requested on that PAL side is, it's not necessarily the playground, but really kind of an outdoor space where they can program it. It's their own. There is some distance between the street and the building frontage. And I think that we've yet to really determine exactly what that is, but I think it's just smart to we're kind of showing it now to just make expectations, not only for cost, but just getting ideas generated on how it can be used.
There's been some talk about, Peterson, our science person, was around playing community and kids go and seed to fruit or vegetable or whatever they're growing. So she's open has an outdoor space there.
Good sound exposure.
And even thought, different family events and year-end barbecues, stuff like that, and people can do that, and visuals of selling.
Like John Davey, that's me to look out around this corner, there's, that drops off down the hill pretty far. If we can expose some of that green space out to the side, that'd be a really nice exposure as well.
Yeah, and we, I will say, just because we're here in this really, private space, that we will be moving this PAL logo up, probably up to here or something in a much bigger fashion. That's been some of the feedback, because they just want that to be more high and big if you can.
There's seen this over here, is there a roof right here?
No, there isn't.
Yeah, so that's it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I get one.
I know. We were going to say.
Well, some of it's saving money, and some of it is also, we want to make sure that we're, from a security and safety standpoint, that we're not creating surfaces that might be reachable from a higher grade. Yeah.
We have the space in our hall that we're really trying to use with the program, so I know. These are more technical drawings, these are building applications. We're kind of expressing what you see three-dimensionally in 2 dimensions. Building sections start to show how the site kind of fits down. This is kind of interesting. This is the Performing Arts Center, so you can see the stage is at grade for the rest of this. And then as the seats go down, this is kind of at almost the same elevation as this. So when you walk into the pack, you're kind of on this level, and then you walk in at kind of the same elevation to the stage.
Similar to like movie theaters.
Yeah.
You walk in, you either go down or you go up.
Yeah, and then, that's going up to that room. And then you can see that the grade kind of falls off down here. So those really explain what's happening across the building a little bit better.
It's interesting. It looks like a pretty darn flat site when you really you stand out there, but when the building's, a few hundred feet long, it doesn't want to be all flat.
Yeah, so just some views kind of explaining how the building is coming together. These are fun wall sections. And then this is just showing how much square footage we have across the building as it's divided up into different pieces. So, Dick Anderson's kind of using different numbers depending on what type of space it is. And then just considering like the square footage that's renovated. And that's kind of all broken down in that table.
Go back to those wall sections. Maybe I really need you for a second, because these, it's probably not something you'll stare at a lot with Dick Anderson. We'll look at them just to understand the building construction. But if a person doesn't know that, these are really interesting because it's kind of how we figure out like floor to floor heights from a technical standpoint. And what is the thickness of the structure? What is the foundation? What does the foundation system look like? How are each of the floors related? What is the building envelope made of? The siding, any kind of air infiltration barriers and framing and interior finishes. It's all there. And so it really has this kind of technical understanding of the envelope of the building, and they're actually really informative.
And it really helps to have that level of detail at this stage.
Usually it's not till the next phase.
Right, yeah, from a,
For budgeting.
for budgeting,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
And then we move on to project narratives by division. So this is really just a description. And then we also have some diagrams for some of these from our consultants that show, utilities in the existing site.
And on that signature page, there's language that says, I, Rex, have read every word of this.
Studied.
So we don't have to go through this too much, but just knowing, there's information per division so that you can better understand what the systems are looking to be and some of the decisions we're looking to make on.
Yeah, because they'll go to a plumber and say like, help us understand pricing for this schematic design level. And they'll have 50 questions, but we're hoping that 30 of them are answered by some of the narrative by our mechanical engineers saying that the plumbing's gonna be this, the fixtures will be that, and the fittings will be usually that. And so they'll still kind of throw their experience and expertise at it, but hopefully there's fewer assumptions because the engineers are kind of saying, assume this.
Yeah, I mean, the narratives, and the piping is one thing, that's easy part, but the narratives is like the description of what kind of hot water system is it gonna be? What kind of HVAC system is it gonna be? That's what really helps.
Yeah, these kind of describe the VAV system, the chilled beam system, and the different approaches there. That's one of the things we're weighing as we move into the next phase.
And then do we assume as you get into, like, Rex wants to kind of standardize across the district that a lot of the stuff will be similar, so our maintenance people don't have to learn 5 different types of.
Yes. And I think that's been kind of, Shane's even directed us to kind of be cognizant of the fact that odds are what we want to make sure that we're understanding what's going on in the other projects, but because we're further ahead, odds are what we do land on here will be sort of directed on the other projects, with exceptions, I'm sure, but that's one thing that makes the scheduling of these nice. We're not having to figure this out in 3 different ways.
And are you, like at Capitol, there's a class mural, but it's back. And Jennifer Trustee Walsh talked about, like seeing what's going on. Are we planning to put those class murals?
Yeah.
I would like to have a spot for the seniors to shine. I think it will help with kind of culture.
Yeah, we actually have an environmental graphic design team that is part of our team. So we've even, as we looked at the gym yesterday, I was like, they can figure out where all the banners should go, better organize it, all the signs. But there's a lot of things in the school right now, like we have talked about some of the murals over the years, where can those go? So we really have a great team that can help us figure out what the vision is and where they should go. And so I think we're gonna have a solid approach on that. We're kind of just starting into that. I think we're gonna start to come in and pinpoint what's there. But yeah, I think it's really important to bring some of those things from the existing high school and bring them into the new school. Brian has his librarians reaching out and gathering all the things from everyone that they want to, that they feel is important to bring to the next one. So, yeah.
So how is interaction with the city going?
City?
Yeah.
Did we tell you that we met as a large group? All contractors, all architects, all city departments? We did that. Was that 2 months ago?
Yeah, probably 3 months ago.
We knew, we got an idea of where they stand, what they're thinking. They're still, willing to be good partners and saying they are good partners. And then I think that you guys, as professional teams.
Yeah, the next week or 2, we're meeting on the site access, some of the, drainage, things like that. We're gonna start meeting with them, and then we'll of course start meeting with the building department, just so that they know our approach and can start talking through some of the things, because they just always appreciate coming to them early, so that they're prepared when something comes on their desk, and we'll be making sure to get them, the schedule as it updates or changes, so they know what to anticipate, so when things come to them.
Have you worked with, have you guys submitted anything to him yet?
No, in the coming week or two, in this meeting coming up, that's one of the things that we want to talk about is sort of the timing on when we plan on delivering some early information to them, or packages, or in what is grouped within those. We did mention it generally in that meeting with them, but, yeah.
Do we want to strategically put some, submit documents here fairly early to initiate the 2021 code?
We already made the round robin. They are going to allow us to be under the 2021. And we're going to have little, as long as we get one piece of the work, like a good example would be over Kessler, we get the gym, or we get some district kitchen gets us on the docket, CTE and CTE, or even the big mechanical piece. So we're going to do central plan at Capitol High. So there's been a round robin on that. They're going to allow us to stay in the 21 code if we're able to hit that.
And why is that important?
Because every time a new code comes out, it's a significant cost increase for owners.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that the fire department, city engineering, and transportation, those are the three that we've identified as that we need to spend a lot of time with them to just get their thoughts early, get their feedback early, get their buy-in. Those are we've identified.
And they played those cards during our large meetings.
Yeah.
Those are the three that spoke up and said, we're going to need.
Yeah.
And so
it's good. We know that.
Yeah.
And I think so. I even think that there's going to be a strategic time here coming up too, that although we're not disturbing Montana Avenue as state highway, I think it's going to be good that we actually sit down with the state just as a partner to kind of say, like, this is coming. Obviously, they know if they've been watching, but I think it'd be good to kind of have them understand what is happening and to what level of detail. But we work really hard to make sure that we're not really disturbing anything in that street if we can avoid it, just because it is a lot more significant impact to schedule typically.
Yeah, so this is just the schedule piece. We are, in a few weeks, we are doing kind of an internal, 60% design development for our consultants, just to keep things moving, and then 100% design development, will be April 16th. We'll have a DD cost estimating exercise by Dick Anderson, which is about 3 weeks. And I will say, next week, we'll start talking about kind of the outcome of the SD estimate. And then we kind of jump, we jump into the CDs. Our first big package is going to be an excavation and south foundation big package. So we're really trying to get things moving as quickly as we can so that Dick Anderson has enough time to get it all done by fall of 28. So we kind of have a series of bidding packages. We have, this early one that goes out in May, and then in June, we have another one that is really the same foundation for the rest of the site. And then later in the summer in August, we'll have basically just like a full building drawing, permit, and bidding. So.
Goes up in June, right?
Is that?
It starts in May, goes up in June, is that what you're saying, or is it going up in May?
No, it's pretty sure.
We have to have the
Starts in
permit
May.
in June.
This isn't gonna be permitted,
Okay.
this is just gonna be bid, so. Yeah, there's
That's.
some complexity to the schedule, but we're working through it to support each other. So we can kind of have enough time to finish design, but also have enough time to get it built, so.
Yeah, I mean, we're tracking on that right now. The SB cost, we've asked subcontractors and some resources to get us pricing today, to give us the next few days to kind of pull it all together, see if we're missing any holes or anything, so we can meet as a group next week to understand that.
That's a milestone for us in the district, is that when you just said you're reaching out to subs. Like, we've gone from design to contractor, now we're into starting to get up work going.
Yep.
That's a big deal for us, that indicator that we're moving.
Is the kitchen on a different
Yeah, it's a different project. It has a similar schedule, but the building's like quite a bit similar. It's a matter of the complexity of all the equipment and making sure we have the right electrical, plumbing.
But by May, June, we'll be at the same point with really the full package, not just the site package. Is that true?
Yeah.
What, so you have a date for 100% design development cost estimating and then a date for CD. Yeah, well, what are you doing? I assume CD is a very
Yeah, so,
Construction drawings,
yeah, so design development, we're trying to get all of the feedback so we can really design the spaces properly. We're starting to figure out how the structure is working, where mechanical's putting their stuff. We're really trying to get all of the design work done by that end of DD date. And then once we move into construction documents, there's still some figuring out the building, but more of it is really documenting so these kids can build up our drawings. So there's more coordination and stuff, but the big design moves and the big design decisions should be done by that point. And it should really just be making sure that we can get it and build it and getting construction feedback.
Yeah, so the last month, we've had a lot of discussions regarding square footage and making sure we're kind of tracking there. So our SD phase that we've been working on the last 2 weeks, that we meet next week, will just be another level of detail of the estimate, kind of making sure we're heading the right path. And then the DD base, the DD pricing estimating that'll be coming up end of April, first part of May, should be just the finer tuned verification of what we're talking next week. And then CD.
It's kind of funny, like even just from SD to DD, if you look at the plans we gave you, you can see which spaces we started to meet on while we were still in SD because they have furniture and a little more detail because we were starting to prepare for those meetings. So you can kind of see how the process looks as you move across the building and meet with those groups.
As we move through this as well, this construction document, cost estimating, these guys have done their job, they designed, this is what it looks like. Now it really takes Dick Anderson and Pulte to making sure that their numbers, not to exclude the design team, but Shane and Tim need to make sure that they are squared. Like our numbers are really close down the next. Fair enough?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so a good way to think of this, I know we're starting construction and we're not finished with the design. I know that's just, but if you think of it from this perspective, like if you're thinking about this room, if we can get the footings, foundations, and excavation, as long as these main supports and the walls don't move, we can start on that work.
Okay.
And then what the design group's gonna be doing is, okay, what does the interior of the space look like? We know we've got columns, footings that we're building, we're currently building that. Now they have time to actually start doing all their design inside of the space.
After that point, it's almost like we're doing a tenant improvement type of project where the building is already there, but everything in it and fastened to it can be further designed.
So they, had initial drawings, I noticed some of the facades have changed, I assume, right with budget. And then as they start getting into more CD drawings, then you're gonna look in to see if the costs are.
It's continual. It's actually by the week as the design team is coming up with solutions, design solutions. We're looking at that going, no, you can't do it both ways there because we know we can't afford that, but yes, you could do
You're all about kind of narrowing it and
Right.
get within the tower.
Or even like constructability, maybe we draw something and Dick Anderson says, there's a simpler way to do that, can we do this instead? So there's some back and forth about constructability and things that are just better solutions long term versus cost, so.
Well, there was a diagram on there that one of the exterior elevations showed like some different types of siding and brick. So the last few weeks, we see that. We're taking that quantity of brick, we know likely what that brick's gonna cost, and we're already putting that in ours.
And that way it becomes almost like a training type of thing where they can say, last time it was this, and this is how it's changed since the last time we looked at it. And like Shane's saying, it's kind of all the time. And that's fairly 20 years ago, 25 years ago, architects were kind of doing that along the way, but costs were a lot more consistent. Today, costs, believe it or not, that subcontractors even struggle sometimes understanding what tomorrow's gonna be for some of those things. And so having these guys involved is really moved us into being informative and making sure that we're understanding costs, but really, I don't think that we see it on a daily basis, and that's what they do, to really be able to have the confidence level to take.
And we had some really good discussions the last month regarding square footage, just to, we're all on the same page. So next week, you know, Tim talked about like, next week we're at a time we're not gonna make drastic changes. The reason we spent a lot of time on the square footage early was to, you know, so we could have any big swings earlier on.
How do you change, like, I know we just had a big Supreme Court decision on tariffs, right? Some other tariffs, but they were on. How do you factor that into the?
Try to mitigate that as best you can. One of the things that we're gonna do is put out a release steel package. And we're gonna try to bring them on as a partner, a similar process to how we brought the UCCMs on. We're gonna do that with steel suppliers and erectors right out of the gates. Early, like before we would take anything completely out to bid, to have them start sitting in with us going, hey, you know what, if we're able to procure wide plan shapes that are standardized, that are gonna fit within this design, we can go purchase that now before tariffs are taken back, or they see something coming up on the horizon. Because I know June 11th is supposedly a big day for steel, because that's when all the companies are gonna make their transition to pricing. That's what I've been hearing. So we get them on early, we could get early work for early procurement packages for them. That saves us money that we're already bringing that stuff in as fast as we can. We did that in the 2017 projects as well. We saved hundreds of thousands of dollars on all three of the schools by taking that out early before those tariffs. Remember those tariffs back then? Now, there was a tariff thing that swung in and it totally threw it in chaos. But we actually got them on before, and we actually purchased a bunch of the standard shapes before the project even started and locked us in. So,
and we want to get this information from the bills directly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why that's what I'm gonna do. So you take all the news and everything to the side, just actually talk to them. They're the ones that know and understand what they're being faced from a tariff standpoint. And it's not that the steel has to be fabricated right then. But we know the quantity of steel we're gonna need, and we can lock in that mill rate. And so then it just, essentially, we can lock that in, and then it gives us some time to finish the design and make that.
we're doing the same with the MEP as well, mechanical, electric, plumbing equipment. We're wanting to hedge our bets to ward off as much of that potential as possible, right? The craziness in the market, we bring them in as on the team, they're able to give us real-time information, going, hey, we see this coming down the road, let's make a decision on, do we want to get these packaged units under contract? But yes, we do, we want to move forward before there's a price increase. Having that, it's a mitigation, it's proactive, not reactive, I guess is how we're going to try to mitigate all risks from that sample.
Thank you. I mean, I know it's probably an additional workload because it's more variables than maybe we have in our steady state.
We're used to it.
That's in life.
It's
not abnormal.
I mean, not that I've ever seen it where it's gone down, but we've had some suppliers come back saying, here's what we're seeing, we should maybe wait on this because the prices might drop down. But not that very often, but we want that information and that we get it straight from the factory.
You just don't want to have to make a change to take stuff away well into the process and that we can't. So
But other versions of mitigating that, like what Shane was talking about, is that so the design team, we will, if needed, as we land on this, we will try to look for opportunities for bid alternates to where we'll design things in sort of having two options. And it's kind of the kind of thing where you know, some of it might be square footage, that's less likely on this project, but some of it might be finish types or opportunities as it relates.
I was gonna say, we talked about the Performing Arts Center, like doing better seats versus.
Yeah, it kind of takes up the same space, but you know, are we buying seats that are gonna have to be replaced in 20 years, or are we buying seats that are gonna be good for 40? And so it's a kind of thing where, do we really need them? Well, it's a measure that we can maybe save $150,000 or more, right? It's like if we add 7 of those up, and they can get pricing for competitive pricing for both options, and then the district can actually look at that and say, and there's a control of doing that under state law, but it's really handy to be able to kind of say, like, this is the version of this that we feel like best values the project.
I don't ever want to buy seats again, but the good one.
And I think that's
so expensive.
That's the right mentality. Once we get there, and if these guys are saying, we're right at the line, and we're a bit concerned here, maybe it's gonna be best practice for us to kind of look at a few options to say, let's give ourselves some room to kind of make some choices. Plus, there is contingency to where, you know, these guys manage contingency really well to say that we don't want to put all of our eggs into it and say we got nothing left in case we run into something unknown on the site for the existing building. There's 2 or 3 or 4 measures of let's be careful as we get into this, but we have to also maximize value too.
There's a risk mitigation that I employ on all the projects as far as we have contingency held, you know, on both sides. As we're working through, as we're getting through our footings, foundations, we start getting our steel structure up, we're getting flying. We're starting to understand our pricing pretty well in the market. Once we get out of the ground, our steel up, we're starting to understand 60% of our risk on that project of going out of budget just got taken off the table once we get up and out of the ground and covered. So at that point, then we can start to utilize some contingency backing. So if we've got a really good contingency, we didn't have to use very much of it because we got out of the ground clean. We got through our structural steel package clean. Okay, now we can buy those seats because we didn't run into a big issue on our foundation for years. And so we don't have to spend the money on that. And you know, that's risk mitigation as we're going up. As we're going up, risk goes down, we can start sliding some contingency over to get those, you know, improved quality things.
Fascinating, and I'm really glad you hired us.
Yeah.
You are fun there.
Yeah. Candace, are there any questions online? There are not. No? Okay.
You guys put them to sleep.
Any more questions? Comments? Any more?
Do you have somebody that is helping with the Native American Library from a?
We have, I was gonna say, so we have a few folks, yeah, on the brain.
Our person for our district that oversees that library has been in those meetings.
Oh, okay.
Help discuss along with our admin that has Native American.
Okay.
With them.
So I would, and I, you know, I'll volunteer him, but Donnie Wetzel.
Okay.
I mean, tribal liaison here in town, but Donnie's a wonderful person. He's got ties to Helena High. I mean, I would think that he would probably love to.
I'm really surprised when he comes from you, because I feel like he's gonna make it more expensive.
He's one of our, but he's just he's a neat person.
He is.
He's one of our teaching professional.
So, I said, yeah, you can say I just volunteered his time or yeah. That's right.
But, yeah.
I have one quick question, just visualizing, we were talking about Montana Avenue. So what am I gonna see when I'm driving down Montana Avenue as I'm looking over at the stadium? Am I gonna see the back of bleachers?
Probably some garbage and some, yeah.
What am I gonna see?
So Trustee Armstrong actually asked me that question an hour ago or so, but, and that is something we haven't really dug into, like, from a literal, we have a plan standpoint. However, we feel like we've been mindful of the fact that, you know, we talked about, is it gonna be a wall system that is sort of the backing of that it maybe can brand both CHS and HHS? And PAL for that matter, maybe, but I think, that I think the idea that we want to look to that level of thing, to where it's a wall system that is going to be of a quality that is worthy of a AA football stadium, or from a wind standpoint and an exposure standpoint, we're also thinking, do we keep it kind of open, but they have perforated mesh banner systems that are something that the school district could actually take down if needed or replace if needed over time. And they could be really kind of interesting. They could be printed with, during football season, they could be printed with active football graphics, or they could be printed with CHS or Helen High School graphics, or during track, they could be printed with track and field graphics. I mean, there's a handful of ways we're probably gonna try to look at doing that, but nothing's certainly been decided, but there's opportunity there more than challenge.
I do, yeah, one of those things that I put my foot down, this is what I want to see happen, is I do want a wall structure on that. And there's a reason for this. One, I don't want to see the leaf litter so much like the common, right? I don't want garbage bags crap flying around underneath there. I don't want it to be a place for kids to run back and forth, that anybody that's ever supervised a football game before has had 1,000 kids underneath there, you don't know what's going on. So I want it closed in. It's not storage, it's more sprinkler, but more important, I want a wall space there. One is if you're gonna get some snow debris coming up out of there, I don't know what that looks like, but I want a wall space there so that we can brand it. So it's gonna be a field and a stadium. If it's Vince Stadium with somebody's name on the Opportunity Bank Field, or if it's a new name for the stadium. Remember, every 10 years, you need to resurface that surface, right, the turf. And in that, it's about half the cost of what it takes to go down. So it's $1 million every 10 years probably to resurface. In doing that, I want to have sponsorship from the scoreboard to the field to the stadium itself, that we sell that opportunity for a revenue source that we put into the line item account that's going to go back and resurface the track and the field. And so you can't do that with a net, all right? A mesh isn't going to work for a lot of reasons, and noise as well. So we are going to, as you drive north and south on Highway 12, and you look to the left or right, towards the school, you're going to see a wall, and that's going to be the stadium. As you get through the end zones, you're going to come back and see a brand new building, but you are going to see a wall in that stadium. It's going to have to, because I want to be able to have that as a branding source for, and then I think we can put, depending on what game night, it's going to be the colors of the Bengals or the Rams. We can highlight some of that wall, but I do want somebody's name hanging on it. And really what I want to do is put an RFP out. If you're interested and, let the competition fly there. Does that help?
Yeah.
That's right now, that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm open for suggestions, but I'm pretty hard to set on. I definitely want that to happen.
I'm too afraid to say my name.
Yeah. We're gonna have, well, to be resourceful, we have some space that's really important for us to be able to do.
Any last comments or questions? Thank you to you all, for all of you for being here and for the great ongoing work. I'm feeling really grateful for just the expertise given this very last bit of our conversation and the experience. It's very reassuring.
Thanks again for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I will adjourn this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kay.